little count test. Do 1, 2, 3 test.
1, 2, 3 test. 1, 2, 3 test.
One more time.
1, 2, 3 test.
Perfect. Got it. Field. Might be able to put YouTube.
Hi, Miss Ray, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Oh my goodness.
I'm feeling good. You know, end of the year. You know, everything is coming to an end. It's just kind of sad.
But you're not ever leaving me. You know that, right? That's part of the contract.
Yeah.
Visit and let us know what's up, what you're doing.
Real good.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on doing a fantastic job this year. Oh my goodness. You've been solid. That's the word that comes to my mind, you know? And everything that you've been a part of, you're there and you spoke your mind, you spoke from your heart, and we benefited from everything that you put yourself out there for us. And we benefited from all of your knowledge and your kindness, your sparkle, and thank you so much. We couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. You guys do. please?
Elizabeth, just a second. We're just turning on the microphones.
Understood.
She came through, Joe.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good. Okay.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you very, very much. And I've done moments of silence, moments of inspiration, but I want to take this time to do a moment of gratitude. Speaking for myself in this position, I want to say thank you to the board, my advisors, and my fellow ambassadors. This position has truly let me grow as a person, and the opportunities I was awarded with was more than I could have ever asked for. Thank you for letting me have a seat at the table. And in terms of this entire year, what we've all lost is irreplaceable, and I understand that. But it truly shows to be grateful for all we have and also for what we can give. And the kindness that we show to others extends beyond what we could ever imagine and what we can do for others, and the kindness that Auhsd is all about in our 5 C's. It's something that we needed most this year, and it's something that I think we need to push on throughout the rest of our years. So please take this moment to reflect on what you have and what you can do for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Moving on, we will have our closed session report. The clerk of the Board of Trustees will report actions taken during our closed session.
4.1, no reportable action taken regarding public employee performance evaluation, superintendent. 4.2, no reportable action taken regarding anticipated litigation. 4.3, the Board of Trustees took formal action with a 5-0 vote to accept settlement in claim Auhsd 19-02, tort number 407. 4.4, no reportable action taken regarding personnel. 4.5, this item was pulled prior to the adoption of the agenda. 4.6, the Board of Trustees unanimously voted to make the following transfers. Jana Kovar from Magnolia High School to Western High School. Mary Ellen Park from South Junior High School to Orangeview Junior High School. Jennifer Sasai from Walker Junior High School to Ball Junior High School. The Board of Trustees unanimously voted to make the following appointments. Ashley McAdams, Assistant Principal, Anaheim High School. Christine McGuire, Assistant Principal, Brookhurst Junior High School. Ryan Ruelas, Assistant Principal, Cambridge Virtual Academy. David Brutus, Assistant Principal, Catella High School. Anne Marie Bernhard, Assistant Principal, Lexington Junior High School. Brian Covey, Assistant Principal, Magnolia High School. Brittany Nichols, Assistant Principal, Savannah High School. 4.7, no reportable action taken regarding negotiations. And 4.8, the Board of Trustees unanimously voted to make the following appointment. Jose Lara, Coordinator, Alternative Education.
Okay, thank you. Now, shall we give them a hand now, board? Come on. Now is their opportunity to come forward and have a word. Okay. I'll start with Anne Marie Bernard.
I must say, you have a great name.
Bernard?
I completely agree.
Prejudice here.
Hilarious. I want to start by thanking the board, trustees, and Superintendent Matsuda. Thank you so much. And the executive cabinet, thank you all for this opportunity. And I am so excited to continue this transition starting here 15 years ago in the district. I'm so happy to continue to be a part of this family. So thank you. And thank you to my family as well, my husband and my kids. Thank you, guys.
Okay, David Brutus.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Again, I want to say thank you to the board and trustees. Thank you to the superintendent and his entire executive cabinet team. Thank you to all those who were in the panel who saw my potential and has given me an opportunity to come and co-labor with the staff at Catella High School. And I look forward to the opportunity to, I think the biggest part is to meet the students and then be able to hit the ground running. And I look forward to serving you guys with all that I have. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, Christina McGuire.
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to thank the board and the cabinet and everybody who had a part in this. I want to thank you for LEAD. That was amazing and greatly appreciated. I really look forward to working with Brookhurst. I've enjoyed my time at all of my other schools, and I really appreciate this opportunity. So thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Matsuda and the entire cabinet. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, let's see. Ashley McAdams.
Hi there, good evening. I would like to take this moment to thank the board and also to thank Superintendent and the cabinet. I'm really excited to be joining back to the school district. I am a former student and graduate of Western High School, so I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to be able to come back and serve those who have served me. Thank you.
Very good. All right. We love it when our alumni become part of our faculties and what have you. It's great. Okay, Brittany Nichols.
As another proud AUHSD alumni, I'm just absolutely humbled by the ability to serve my district and the students of Anaheim in a greater capacity. And I really want to thank the board, Superintendent Matsuda, and all of cabinet for this amazing opportunity. I adore this community. And I'd also like to thank my parents, my husband, and my 2 daughters for putting up with me during this process. It's bittersweet. I've had 14 years at Anaheim High School. You're going to love it. I'm going to miss all the staff and the students there. But I'm so grateful to be part of the family at Savannah and build upon all the amazing things they're already doing. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, Ryan Ruelas.
Wait, is that right?
Is that Ryan?
I wondered if that was you.
It's me! I was trying my best to be calm there so I don't get all sweaty and start, but now you know it's me, now that my glasses are fogging up and I'm spastic. But really, President Piercy and Board of Trustees and Superintendent Matsuda and Cabinet, I love this district. I'm a proud product of the Anaheim Union High School District. I'm super excited that other alumni are coming back and returning, because this is a fantastic district to work for and a fantastic district to be educated in. And I just want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to continue something that we started in the Anaheim Union High School District in response to the whole pandemic that took place, which has really taken off and is truly proving to be one of the most innovative and exciting educational opportunities for the students that we serve here in the Anaheim Union High School District. Thank you, and of course, you all know I'm super close with my family who is watching on YouTube right now, so thank you, Mom, and thank you to my sisters and everybody. I love you all, and a special shout out to a woman named Renee Sitlau, who basically many years ago had the vision to start the e-learning program and this innovative experience for our students. Thank you.
You betcha. All right. And Jose Lara, our principal.
Board of Trustees, thank you very much for this opportunity. I look forward to working as hard as I can to make you and our community proud. I am a graduate of Western High School. My whole family has graduated basically from Savannah High School. I told you it was a great place. My mom came here from Mexico when she was 10 years old, attended Brookhurst Junior High, went over to Savannah, Peter Marshall to begin with. My family has long roots here. I want to thank my wife, my wonderful children who allow me and give me grace to be here with all of you every single night, working late nights. I also want to thank the staff over at Dale Junior High, the new Dale Junior High. And if you go to Dale Junior High today, it is a completely transformed place thanks to the leadership of Lorena Moreno, my school principal, and also the partnership of my co-pilots, Assistant Principal Papi Gil Bonales, and former Assistant Principal Israel Rubio, who's now at Savannah High School. And lastly, I just want to thank the cabinet for always picking up my phone calls whenever we need help and support. It's truly a family atmosphere here in Anaheim Union High School District, and I'm glad to continue here with all of you. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think, did I miss anybody? Okay. Nope. Thank you all, and welcome aboard, all of you that are new to us, and those of you who have been with us and are in new positions. I hope you enjoy it, and you're going to do a good job, I know. So thank you all. Okay, our next item is introduction of guests, and let's see here. I see Grant Schuster, our ASTA president, is here. All right. I don't see, is Brian Bannon here? No? They may be in the lounge, okay. So here's Hilda, okay, and let me see here. Well, then Brian, okay, Hilda and Brian are here, all right. We have Hilda, ALTA president, and Brian Bannon, the APGA co-president, and Grant is our ASTA president. So, are there any others that are going to be present today? I don't think so. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go back to Elizabeth O'Shea, and she's going to give her student representative a report.
Thank you. Tonight I will be appreciating 4 schools. At Oxford, their OA Gamut has been producing a virtual newspaper. They were entered into a student media contest and ranked 3rd place in all of Southern California.
Right.
One of their highlight articles is on student Joshua Lim, who did the 24 miles in 24 hours challenge. Lim donated $10 for every mile he ran and donated it to the AAPI organization. At Gilbert, they had an entrepreneurial week and opened up students to various career pathways that they can take. OC Pathways collaborated with them and facilitated live workshops and efforts in building leadership skills. At Kennedy, the new organization, Humanitarian Research Association, has branched out in expanding their club throughout the district. They were recently able to facilitate an AAPI informational summit to discuss the recent hate that has been spewing and create a safe space for all students. And at Western, just like many other schools, have been appreciating their teachers and staff this week. Although they were such small acts, they created a positive, joyous environment all students were participating in, such as spirit days like a day to unmute and turn on your camera. And these small acts really just made it for the teachers, because in this virtual environment, it's really hard to connect. And I feel like that's what they love about their job. So this was an opportunity for us to all connect with our teachers. And this concludes my school report.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And the Board of Trustees would like to honor you for how you have spoken for others and your service as a student representative to the Board of Trustees during this 2021 school year. You've done an outstanding job, and we really appreciate all your work. Now, we'd also like to honor the district's student ambassadors for their service and important contribution to the district during the 2021 school year. The ambassadors served as official spokespersons for all district students at special ceremonies, events, and functions, along with Elizabeth, of course, who is kind of the head ambassador. And the student leaders are also deeply embedded in the district's governance structure and actively provide the student voice whenever possible. Now, our ambassadors during the school year were, do you want me to read them, Elizabeth, or do you have the list? She's not, no, you don't hear? Okay, I'll read them. Dulce Martinez from Anaheim High School. Nathaniel Ibarra from Cambridge Virtual Academy. Samuel Bingham, Cypress High School. Aaron Angadi from Gilbert High School. Denise Martinez, Catella High School. Kang Lu, Kennedy High School. Russell Santana, Loera High School. Ivan Ayala, Magnolia High School. Fashion Castillo from Oxford Academy. Natalie Moreno from Savannah High School. And Krish Patel at Western High School. Trustees, we need to actively thank all of these students for a super year, considering the disadvantages that we have faced on this school year. But I want to thank them all for taking part and doing the best that they could. They will all remember this year as unique and different. So, anything else you would like to say, Elizabeth, right now?
I would like to say that you guys have been so encouraging through this entire year. I don't want to get emotional, but you've opened up so many doors and let me truly have a seat at the table. And it's meant so much to me, because I know that it'll continue on with the next year's student ambassadors, every student's leadership, because they want to talk to you guys. They want to let you know that what the students feel, and these decisions are being made on their behalf, but they can have a voice too. And I really just want to thank you for letting me amplify my own. And AUHSD will always have a dear spot in my heart. So thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, Elizabeth, just before we let you go, but you'll stick around to vote. Where are you going next year?
I'll be attending USC next year.
Mike.
I'd like to also, at this point, put a shout out to Mr. Ron Hoshi and Principal Houston over at Oxford and Principal Brown over at Walker. They've been really important to the success of ensuring the voice of all of our ambassadors as well.
But what, I didn't hear where Elizabeth said she's...
Oh, Elizabeth, where are you going again?
USC.
I'm going to USC.
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 Yeah, USC. Fight on, fight on, children.
Wonderful.
All right, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes, and I would also like to chime in and say that Ron Hoshi is a retired teacher administrator from the district, and he still is working for us and helping us out tremendously. He does a great job with these ambassadors. I have been involved with the ambassadors since I got on the board because I love working with kids, and I still enjoy doing it, in a kind of extended sense of a way. But Ron really gets in there and works with the kids and does a great job. So we're lucky we still have him working with us. Thanks, Ron.
Best wishes, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Can I say something real quick?
Of course.
I just want to congratulate Elizabeth. Your point at the beginning of the meeting was well taken, and I think it's so resounding that you would actually say that about kindness and what the district is all about. I also want to tell you that you have been one of, I say this to all ambassadors, but I think you have been very, very poised in terms of presenting your ideas and presenting your side and advocating for the students. So thank you for doing that. And knowing that you're going to USC, I know that there is a big and bright future ahead of you, so congratulations. And I want to take this opportunity to congratulate all the ambassadors. They did a phenomenal job, especially during the COVID. So thank you all for your services. And I'm sure all of you guys are going to do great. I wish we could hear each one of them where they're going to school, but I'm sure that they're going to really good schools, especially Cal State Fullerton, right, which is Go Titans. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Very good.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I spoke to you privately before because I didn't want to cry, but she has been an amazing ambassador. And yes, we tell our ambassadors that, but you've been exceptional because you've always been out there and poised, and we see you in almost every committee that you join, and we treat you like an adult because you are so poised and you speak your mind, and that's exactly what we want. So thank you so much for all that you've done, all that you will do, because we know that you're gonna do great things in the future, and we know you're gonna give back in some way because you have such a big heart, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to also extend my congratulations on your going to USC. We know that's a great school for any student going there, but I think you're going to be exceptional, having shown your leadership abilities here, working with the other ambassadors, and the way you presented yourself, excuse me, to the board here and to the audience. You've under the difficult situation we've had this past year, you've done exceptionally well. So thank you so much for that, and I hope that the scholarship that you earned, at least one of the scholarships, will help you along the way. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you.
Elizabeth, I'd like to ask you, do you know what pathway you plan to pursue in your education? What pathway, what area is your interest?
I will be pursuing political science and then hopefully one day become a lawyer.
They are so lucky to have you. Bless your heart. We wish you well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. On another note, I just want to say, since we're already recognizing ambassadors, one of our former ambassadors, Ibrahim Barmal, I don't know if you guys remember, he was from Kennedy High School, he just got accepted to Harvard. He was going from, I think, from UC Berkeley to got accepted to Harvard to pursue his master's. So that's a good news again. One of our former ambassadors.
Very good. It's always good to hear about our students succeeding tremendously. It's great. Okay, our next item, and I kind of concluded, I added one of the next ones anyway. I made a mistake here, but that's okay. 7.3, we're going to talk about our Mikvah Soapbox Challenge National Speech winner. In 2020, Kenny Lee was a Mikvah Soapbox Challenge National Speech winner. He was selected to represent California as one of 10 national winners based on his passionate advocacy for increased support for student anxiety and mental health services. Kenny was recognized at the Soapbox Nation Main Stage event held on June 23, 2020, where he presented his speech to an audience of educators and community leaders from throughout the nation. As Oxford's Key Club Vice President, Kenny received the Key Club 2021 District Distinguished Vice President Award. Kenny will be attending Claremont's Pitzer College in the fall and looks forward to continuing his work in support of student mental health and social justice. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Does this work? All right. Thank you to our board president, district trustees, distinguished guests, district cabinet for this opportunity for me to share this very important topic. Let me start. Mental breakdowns are common. Someone tells me about how ASB, their final, and sports are all happening on the same day, normal. People frantically staying up to study for a test that they procrastinated for a week because of anxiety. Most people have done that. But now the news is all of a sudden clamoring about the rise of anxiety due to COVID-19. However, let me say that this has been an issue for far longer than COVID-19. It seems that the only time the media really paid attention to this issue are when deaths started happening. Rapid change has needed to happen for a very long time. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America says that 80% of kids with a diagnosable anxiety disorder have never gotten treatment, and from 2007 to 2012, reported anxiety disorders rose by over 20%. We are living in an age of anxiety where these rates will only continue to increase if we don't act. We are in desperate need of a system where there are affordable care centers specifically for teenage mental health. There's already headspace programs in countries like Australia. We can absolutely use some of our $4.4 trillion budget into both an online and in-person support system specifically for teenagers. Because I'm envisioning a society where kids feel that they are good enough, where the kid who sits alone isn't just ignored or ostracized, but gets help, where conversations are not fueled by anxiety-ridden thoughts. But unfortunately, at this rate, I know this dream cannot happen because we have been talking about mental health nonchalantly for decades now. Yet judging by the fact that in the past Democratic debates, teenage mental health was discussed 0 times, I know that we need to be our own advocates. We need to use our democratic power to advocate for teenage mental health solutions because the platforms that controlled our elections did not care about us. Thank you.
Okay, I have a second item here that I hadn't read yet, but this is the Rapid Response Team student representatives. Now, you didn't tell me which one you are. Are you Brandon?
I'm Kenny Lee.
Or you're Kenny?
Yes.
Okay. I was hoping you were Kenny, but I wasn't sure. I thought I'd seen you before, but I thought, isn't your father in Kiwanis?
No, I'm in Key Club.
You're in Key Club, okay.
Cypress meetings, yes.
All right, and you've done really well in Key Club, too.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Brandon Amai and Kenny Lee were student representatives selected for participation in the MICVA Challenge California Rapid Response Team. And Brandon and Kenny worked with a group of 12 student civic leaders from throughout the state to address the impact of the pandemic on the California youth, as he's been telling you. The team met twice a week throughout the summer and fall of 2020 to collect data, develop policy proposals, and to meet with community leaders throughout California to address the impact of the pandemic on the California students. And the team's efforts culminated in a rapid response team town hall meeting on November 11th of 2020, where these dynamic and thoughtful students led a series of impactful discussions with leaders in education and public policy from around the state. Now, Brandon and Kenny are seniors at Oxford Academy, and they look forward to continuing to serve their university communities and use their voices for positive change. And I have to say, boys, that's outstanding, that you went to all this work. I mean, you really felt, the need for this and the drive, and you acted on it. And I think that is phenomenal. And, you're going to go far, obviously. I mean, and this is great. Now, where are you going next year?
I'm going to the Claremont College's Pitzer College specifically.
What? I didn't hear that.
Pitzer College.
Claremont? Okay. Fantastic.
Very difficult to get into.
Of course they are, but this is an Oxford student. Come on. Senior, thank you very much, and congratulations on your achievement.
Can I ask a question?
Of course. Next.
You've explained to us or told us about the effects of what's going on, but you went back to 2007 through 2012 and said anxiety was still, or was at that point, and was climbing. I didn't hear you say what was causing the anxiety or the underlying factors. Can you enlighten us some?
Well, I'm not going to speak here as an expert on this issue,
of course.
obviously, but there are various causes. One would be that the stigma of mental health decreasing could contribute to more people reporting anxiety as an issue rather than just some normal part of their routine. That's number one. Another possible underlying cause of this would just be the increase of competitiveness over time that we all experience. I think in this room, we all know that over time, things have just gotten more competitive. Number three, social media is something that I want to be very clear about is not necessarily one of the main contributing causes to a decline in mental health. I think we need to be very careful looking at things in a causation versus correlation viewpoint, which is why I wanted to emphasize that there are many reasons why anxiety or mental health generally could be increasing right now for teenagers. But I think the most important fact is we know it's increasing, we know it has been increasing, and we need to act on that.
Okay, thank you.
And I tell you that you are not an expert, but you sure sounded like one.
And it's
well researched.
It's really important that what you're saying, that this is not new. This isn't a new phenomenon, but at least now we can say that people are talking about it. But your clarification was spot on. Spot on. A lot of it is we haven't learned to cope. And so people are calling it anxiety and they're calling it mental health when it's just you have to learn to cope and learning coping mechanisms. So, but boy, I would love to hear more. Are you going to? Is there anything planned in the future that we could listen in and hear you speak, or maybe you should just go ahead and do something because you're phenomenal.
I'll try.
You've got our ears now, so we want to hear more.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to do something.
All right. Any other comments?
Your speech was phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, another stellar example of our products here in Anaheim Union. Okay, we're moving on to reports. Now, we've already had Elizabeth's report, so we'll move to reports of our associations. Starting with ASTA, Grant Schuster. In person.
Break the desk.
Was that you?
Break the desk.
I was going to say, what are you doing?
No, she already
did it.
She did, yeah.
Well, it is good to see all of you back in person for the first time in quite a while. Good evening, trustees, district cabinet, and everyone joining us through the YouTube channel feed. It's good to see you all in person and with our protocols in place as it outlines the promise just ahead with our graduations at Handel Stadium, our in-person summer school programs, and a full return in August that will bring our community back together in celebration of our public schools. In the spirit of referencing celebration, I want to bring attention to National Educators Week currently taking place. Each year at sites, AUSD delivers gifts, PTAs serve lunches, administration organizes a week-long recognition of what teachers do, and this is always appreciated. This year was obviously going to be different. It's also important that we take this opportunity to understand what authentic teacher appreciation, what form authentic teacher appreciation comes in. It comes in the form of consistent respect and support, fully funded schools, healthy and safe working conditions, decision-making power, a professional wage and benefits, academic freedom, an end to standardized testing, a culture where principals are collaborative and intentionally strive for a universally welcoming work environment on campuses, and a campus environment where students have what they need. This is the appreciation our teachers and their students deserve. I'm happy to say that in a time of upheaval and uncertainty, that our association and our district have spent thousands of hours this year doing this sort of work to recognize our teachers and these goals. Our teacher input group has brought teachers, SLPs, and nurses together across every site in the district. We have discussed everything from bell schedules to our safety protocols, and from learning models to spending priorities. Our members continue to step up to advocate for themselves and their colleagues, and the district has done more than just listen. They have implemented policy and programs based on our input. At the bargaining table, AUSD and the AUHSD came to a quick agreement during an unsettling time that recognized our work with a substantial pay increase, along with our exemplary health benefits plans. The security provided by this to our members and all district employees exemplifies the appreciation that is felt by you for all of us. The district stands in line with AUSD to promote teacher-driven authentic assessments over mandated standardized testing is yet another sign of appreciation for teachers and what they are able to do as professionals. We will continue to reach out and collaborate at every turn and have no doubt that the district will respond in kind. It will be nice to receive kudos, lunches, and other recognition again next year, but it is far more important to continue the dynamic of respect and support that has been illustrated between AUSD and the district, particularly during the time of the pandemic. I would also like to announce to the board that AUSD has been awarded a Safe and Just Schools grant by the National Education Association for $75,000. We will be focusing our grant around the organizing of teachers, parents, and community groups, around the creation and implementation of community schools and accompanying service programs. We're looking forward to building a structure of advocacy that will strengthen our public schools within our community and further highlight the importance and still often unrealized potential of public education in our society. I would also like to comment on a couple of items before the board tonight. First, the LGBTQ Resolution, recognizing what we do in support of students from that community. 6 years ago, a handful of teachers, including myself, took 20 students to walk in the Long Beach Pride Parade in May. Aside from the pandemic cancellation, we have attended every year since. I can't describe the joy and welcome that our students felt as folks who came out to watch up and down Ocean Boulevard shouted out the schools and graduating classes that they were part of in the AUHSD. Some alums ran into the route to take pictures with our district banner. Since then, our Gay Straight Alliance clubs have sprouted up on campuses across the district, and as of last year, our students felt strength and support enough to stand in front of this board in advocacy for their program. We stand with our students in support of this resolution, as well as the supports and resources it provides. The other item is the resolution for an ethnic studies requirement. Since this topic and question have come up, the district has involved AUSD members in every meeting throughout the process. District administration, parents, students, and teachers, along with site admin, have all had their voices heard and been part of the consensus building that led to tonight's recommendation. That 70 teachers have already stepped forward to be trained in any new curriculum and teach the courses is testament to the process and the community's desires to see these courses in our schools. We look forward to continuing our work with the district on the creation of these courses and curriculum. Usually I don't speak from the cuff, but at the end here, I just also wanted to say that we have these programs and we build this vision for the district, but on an everyday basis, the things that go on and the support and the effort that is put out by people working together. Today, for an example, we've been working with this teacher input group. Trustee Piercy, you've gone a few times, and I had some concern with some members that we weren't getting enough of the student, the voices of special education teachers and students in those meetings, and asked for a meeting with Jaron and Manuel in Ed Division. They immediately agreed. We met this morning. I had a further call with Manuel this afternoon, and we've already begun to set up a subcommittee where our special education students and teachers can have the same sort of forum and get the same supports and build the same structures that we've done so well in the teacher input group for the overall district. Later in the morning, I was on the phone with HR. We've had so many teachers that have been on temporary contracts because of contract language the last few years, and now because of one-time money, we're going to be hiring more than 100 more. And the process of making sure the teachers that have been on temporary contracts get the security of a probationary contract and feel that future in the district before we go out and hire others has been just a real load on the HR department. And I was on the phone with Scott Jensen, and I believe it was 31 contracts today were already offered, changed from temporary to probationary. So teachers know before the end of the year that they are going to be back next year. And it's such a big deal, especially for teachers who have been dedicated to the district for multiple years on temporary contracts. And then finally, I was on the phone with Laura Jacobs and Yvette Robinson from the insurance committee, just talking for close to an hour, just about a specific issue with a specific member and an issue with the health insurance. And, it may not seem like a lot, but to the person it's happening to, it is a big deal. And for us to sit down and find the time and be able to hash it out, those kind of things on a daily basis are what enable us to build the relationships to then implement these visions that we all talk about. Because of the trust we can have and because of the working relationships we've built together. And then I'm just going to make a personal shout out. You had mentioned Trustee Piercy, Ivan Ayala from Magnolia. And Ivan was one of the last students I had at Dale before I took this position, and he was in my history class on the volleyball team. And it's just so phenomenal to be able to see our students grow from where they started and what they've become. And for me in this position, to see him speak in board meetings or go to pride marches or be involved with the GSA, be involved with the student ambassador program, it's just another illustration of why we all do what we do. So on that personal note, I will conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant.
Bravo.
I have to go back in history a little bit, but now I see a lot of our teachers involved in committees, and they're getting their voices heard, and I really love it. And it reminds me of back when I was teaching and we tried site-based decision-making. You remember that? We tried it, but now we're really doing it a lot better, but on a district level with getting our teachers involved, and they're giving up of their time. I go to this meeting with Manuel with the opening of schools task force, and we meet every week. They're meeting and discussing stuff, and the teachers have the opportunity to put in their opinions, and it's great. Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker, I'll have Brian Bannon from the APGA.
Sylvia just sent me a text. She said, I feel sorry because you have to go after Grant. So thanks, Grant.
I'm sorry. I'm just going down the list.
This will be the last time I go after Grant. So that being said, thank you, everyone, Madam Piercy, and board members, trustees, and obviously the Brain Trust that's right here. It's been a long time being APJ leader for way too long. Unlike Grant, I will speak off the cuff, but I do have some notes here. I just wanted to share my gratitude to all the students for showing a lot of grit this year. They've done an exceptional job. And I'd also like to thank the hard work during the pandemic of CSEA members, AFSCME, middle managers, principals, administrators, teachers, social workers, and counselors. And anyone else I forgot, I know you're working hard, and that includes everyone in this room. I want to start a little bit to talk a little bit about where we've been and where we are right now with APGA. We're getting more people, which I'm so thankful for. We're getting temporary counselors for next year, but they're permanent in the eyes of the students. So I've long said this: the job of counselors is about relationships. It's not about your grad rate. It's not about people completing pathways. It's about the relationships that you have with students. So I applaud everyone for supporting more people. Speaking of people, I'd like to just make a personal comment about over 150 years of experience, 4 past presidents, and 20 years of alternative ed experience are the retirees that have happened during the pandemic. My good friend Steve Gonzalez, Sandy Allen, Sharon Hughes, Lisa Rockwell, Christina Gray. Thank you all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, Hilda, ALTA president. Seriously.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Madam President Piercy, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, Superintendent Matsuda. It's hard to follow all of that. It's a little crazy. I have something written, but I was really just taken back by all of our students, right? And just thinking about the time that we are in, and also just being so blessed and honored to be here and to see their growth and the opportunities that we provide in our campuses and outside of our campuses for them to continue growing as citizens. And I do want to start by thanking also the work of our teachers, right, in our sites. During this week of teacher appreciation, as you heard from Grant today, their resiliency and their work, their care and heart for our students and for their colleagues, right, has been incredible and has really just been phenomenal this year. Despite what the school year has thrown at us, teachers and our sites have persevered and grown stronger together, and we are looking forward to all the summer opportunities that are going to be happening in person and for the upcoming school year. School sites have also been busy with sporting events and with on-site student cohorts ranging from academic supports to enrichment opportunities for skill development and engagement. We're also currently finalizing our summer programs, and we're starting recruitment for a variety of programs at the junior high and the high school levels. As the end of the year draws near, students have also had the opportunity to participate in events that showcase their developed talents, such as district band performances, soapbox speeches competitions, and virtual performances. Additionally, we are celebrating our students through a variety of award ceremony and also through the capstone interview happening at very different sites. They encapsulate and demonstrate a student's growth prior to them graduating and heading off. Lastly, I would like to share that we're continuing our commitment to wellness and to student preparedness and have been working diligently, and we'll continue to do this work during the summer to prepare and welcome students, parents, and staff for the upcoming school year. And I want to give one last shout out to all of our students, right, for their unwavering commitment to themselves, for their resiliency. We are incredibly proud of them. And most importantly, we know that they have an avenue to express their needs. And if we don't have them at the school sites, I know our district ambassadors have been advocating, and more we are including the student voice in the shared decision process, just like we talked about our counselors and all of our staff members. So I'm really proud to work in district, and it's an honor to be here to give you the end of the year report. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilda. Okay, I don't see any other association. So we'll move on. Do we have a parent-teacher report at all? Okay. Moving on to presentations. Our first presentation will be school dismissal and distance learning, and I'll defer to Dr. Freed on this.
Great. Thank you, Board President Piercy, and good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the board, executive cabinet, and to all our friends, families, and colleagues watching on our YouTube channel. As promised at our last board meeting, for tonight's presentation, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about our summer programs. As you know, we're just a few weeks away, hard to believe, with school being over, so we wanted to upload and update you on the work that's being done to support our students throughout the summer. We'll also talk a little bit about graduation, just to give you a quick update on graduation, to make sure all of you are aware of some of the changes that have been made and why, make sure our community is also aware of those changes. And then finally, we'll transition in preparation for the resolution that is before you tonight, looking at the opening for next school year and what that's going to look like. I want to front load a couple aspects of that before you actually take your vote. So without further ado, I'm actually excited to have some teammates, colleagues from our Ed Division family here with me tonight, who are going to talk more in depth about the great work that we're doing to plan for this summer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over first to Mr. Joe Carmona, who's going to talk a little about summer programs.
Good evening, board, guests, and those joining us virtually. Thank you for having me here tonight. So I'm excited to share a little bit about what we're planning for the summer along with some of my colleagues. So there's really two sides of what we're going to be doing during this summer. So the first part of that is very similar to what we've offered in the past in terms of providing our students with an opportunity to remediate courses that they've earned a D or an F in during the school year. So we have a few options for what that looks like. Our focus is on English, math, and science during the summer for those credit recovery courses. We do have those options will be in person at all of our sites. So thanks to our teachers who are going to be a part of those programs during the summer. An additional piece this summer is we will be providing instructional aids in those classes. We want to make sure that not only the students have a very smooth transition back to in-person, but that since this is an opportunity to make up those classes on the path to graduation, that they are successful, right? That they complete the course successfully. So providing that additional support this summer. Our curriculum specialists, our teacher leaders have designed special curriculum for our summer courses. And that curriculum is really meant to engage and help the students be really active during the summer, right? It is a long time. You're in class for 3 hours at a time. And so the curriculum is designed to have a number of different activities, change of pace, and so they're not just sitting there doing one thing for 3 hours, right? So great work of our teacher leaders in training all of our summer school teachers who will provide that. We will have virtual options, that's in person, right, through our Apex Credit Recovery if a student is not going to attend in person, and obviously working with our county partners at Pacific Coast High School and Access to also provide virtual options for those students who do not want to attend in person. Our other in-person offering is opportunities for students to accelerate and those are offered to rising 9th graders and rising 10th graders. The 9th and 10th grade years are typically the most impacted for students because of the number of requirements that they need to complete. And so we will be offering health for our rising 9th graders and world history for our rising 10th graders. So that allows them to access CTE pathways, VAPA pathways, AVID, other programs that they're involved in without having potentially to take a 0 period or 7 classes during the school year. So that is an intentional move on our part to allow them to get that done during the summer so they can focus on those 6 classes during the school year. So that's our sort of our credit recovery, our academic course component. The other side of that this summer is knowing that obviously the pandemic has been very challenging for all of our students, to provide some enrichment opportunities. And here we really wanted to tap into the creativity of our teachers. So we gave our teachers the chance to design some 2-week course proposals, right, where they could tap into their experience, their expertise, and come up with these short courses that are not what you might typically see during the school year. So there we have just about 65 different enrichment courses that will be happening across our sites during the summer. Just a few examples. We have courses that are focusing on civic engagement, where students will be designing a project and a call to action over the course of the 2 weeks. We have students who will be working in their campus gardens, focusing on not only the science part of that, but then also some of the sort of sociology behind that around food deserts, access to fresh foods, how that impacts certain communities. So they're really going in depth with those pieces. We have many visual and performing arts opportunities, right? One example is, for those of you who are familiar with a singing competition, right? It's sort of like the Voice Light, a 2-week version of The Voice, where students will practice a piece, perform it, and sort of have a fun, cooperative but competition sort of piece. And then several courses that are focused on health and wellness, right? How to manage your own stress, physical activity type of programs. And so it varies across all of our sites because it really was left to the teachers to come up with ideas and propose it for their school. In addition, one of the really exciting things is we are offering for our junior highs sports and fitness programs. And so this is really intended to help get those students out of the house, off the couch, away from the screen, and to engage in some physical activity at their sites. We know that activity is not only good for their physical health, but right, the science around your improvement to your mental health is strong, right? When you are engaged in those activities and the endorphins are released, right, it improves your mental state. And so we're very excited to be offering that for our junior high students, including our incoming 7th graders. So, many of our elementary districts their school year ends a little bit after us. But the great thing about this program is it's not, you have to show up for a certain amount of time, right? So as soon as their district calendar ends, they can join our programs, right? There's no show up by a certain day, right? It's an open entry because we know that our elementaries do end slightly different calendars than we are on. And then the last thing is the return of our summer musical. 2 years ago, this was a fantastic collaborative project of VAPA teachers from several sites who put together a full musical. It won't be quite as luxurious as 2 years ago, but we will be performing in an outdoor venue in one of the city parks, and it'll be a series of sort of one-act pieces, because it's a little less intense to get those prepared and ready to go, considering the conditions with the pandemic and bringing our students together. So those are the credit recovery pieces and the enrichment pieces, and I know my colleagues will be addressing a few others. So I don't know if there are any questions at this time, or we'll wait till the end and can answer some questions.
Joe, question. On the enrichment side, you mentioned there are 65 enrichment opportunities. How many hours per day are they?
So they run in 3-hour segments. So there's an AM and a PM session. And so some of the teachers are doing both AM and PM. Some are only doing AM. Some are only doing PM. And that depended partly on the teacher, but then also knowing that they would be working with certain students perhaps, right? They kind of communicated with their students around what worked best for them. And so, but there are the possibilities of 2 sessions within the day, the AM and the PM.
And the limitation is 20 students per session, like it is on the credit recovery?
If they're using an indoor space, yes, the 20. Many are potentially using outdoor spaces, and so then they can accommodate larger numbers of students.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, one other question. Joe, the credit recovery, for how long is that?
All our programs are running for 4 weeks.
4 weeks, okay.
It starts June 7th is the day the students begin, and that will run until July 1st.
Okay.
We will have 2 weeks of enrichment in July, so I believe that's July 6th to July 18th. The first 2 weeks of July, we will be offering enrichment only. The credit recovery portion of summer school will have completed.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, how are we reaching our kids? How are we getting this message out to our kids that we're doing this?
So that's really, there's 2 pieces there. Our counselors have done a really impressive job, right? So they obviously knew some of the students who were going to need credit recovery, right? So they were kind of working towards getting them signed up already. But with the enrichment pieces, they are promoting that, as well as our teachers, right? So that was kind of part of it, like, let us know what kind of students you're thinking about, serving with your project. And so the teachers are also reaching out to some of their own students, some of their incoming students to be a part of those programs and opportunities. And obviously all of that happens with the support of our administrators, helping facilitate the use of our mass communication systems to all of our folks, right? Because each site has different offerings, right? So they have to kind of tailor those messages to the students that they're going to serve during the summer.
So I have some good news. It's reaching the elementary school district already. So they're already, the teachers are already telling.
The incoming 7th graders are pretty excited from the feedback so far that there's a lot of interest for those rising 7th graders to come and be a part of the programming. So that's very exciting in terms of, welcoming them to our district and to our campuses. And I mean, that's really going to be the first time we're doing something to this scale. I mean, I've been here 20 years, so probably in 20 years. So, it's a pretty exciting opportunity for our students.
And thank you for clarifying, to the public, that everybody knows, because they were concerned about the time frame, and that we were still going to be, I work for elementary school, we were still going to be on, and that the secondary was starting. So thank you for clarifying the time that they can just jump in.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
Exciting stuff.
I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, talk about extended school year.
Yeah, so now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our Coordinator of Special Youth Services, Amy Maya, and she will talk about the work that's being done with our extended school year.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Matsuda, and Executive Cabinet, and all of our family and friends at home. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you what we'll be doing through extended school year. So during extended school year, all of our special program students will have the opportunity to work on IEP skill maintenance and have opportunities for structured social interaction, as well as support in small groups. We're very fortunate this year to have 3 sites to offer extended school year. So Hope will host all of our current and incoming Hope School students, grades 7 through adult transition. We also have Loera, which will host 7 through 12, and then Savannah, which will have our adult transition programs. One of the exciting things about extended school year this year is that all 3 of our sites will offer both in-person and virtual instruction. So the in-person classrooms will have no more than 14 students, and those class sizes will vary depending on how much adult support is needed. So it could go up or down, but no more than 14. And they will also have, sorry. They will also have a variety of the adult support. So Hope will have a lesser amount of students, and that just depends on how much the need is in their class. So just to give you kind of a picture of how many students we'll have at each site, the current projections for Hope's attendance is about 171. They have about 70% that have committed to in-person and 30% committing to virtual. Loera is at 236 with 62% committing to in-person and 38% committing to virtual. And then for Savannah, it's 150 students with 64% in-person and 36% virtual. So we are very excited. We have a great team of teachers who are ready to go, want to see their students, very happy to be back on campus. We have a great set of classified people who are also ready to go and excited to see kids. My amazing school psychologists and program specialists will all be on deck to support our site admin. So Celeste and I are really excited about the opportunities for the summer for special programs. I don't know if you guys have any questions regarding.
Questions?
Just clarification, the students that are coming to Loera and Savannah, they're from across the district, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
From all the special programs, but yes, from all of the sites.
Okay. And so we've got busing.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Matt Thomas and his team who are currently working on transportation
Yes.
as we speak for ESY.
Very good.
The students that said they want to do virtual decided that they wanted to do in-person, is that an issue?
No. We have the staffing that's needed for both. All staff will be on campus to provide that instruction, whether they are conducting a virtual classroom or in person. So we were very happy to make that happen for our families who requested that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, it gives me great pleasure to bring up our Director of English Learners and Multilingual Services, Dr. Renee Bryant, who will talk about the great work being done to support our Summer Language Academy.
Yes.
So excited to talk to you. I forgot about the cleaning. All right, so Board President Piercy, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Matsuda, Executive Cabinet, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about our summer expanded learning opportunities for our English learners, also known as emerging bilingual and multilingual scholars. This summer, we are excited to welcome close to 85 emerging bilingual newcomers to our virtual Summer Language Academy for the 2nd consecutive year. During this 4-week academy for emerging scholars, they will engage in an innovative, asset-based, multiliteracy enrichment program, affirm one another's linguistic and cultural identities, explore multiple perspectives and diverse experiences while increasing their language acquisition. We are also excited to announce that our virtual Summer Academy curriculum will integrate civic and project-based learning, so our emerging bilingual scholars can earn the seal of civic engagement. And beyond that, we're also excited to announce that if our scholars need recovery credits, that they will be able to earn them as elective credits and also English language development. So we'll have 3 classes that we'll offer for Summer Language Academy from June 1st to June 24th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So please mark your calendars in advance and save the date, because we will be hosting our virtual Summer Language Academy celebration on Thursday, June 24th, from 10 to 11 a.m. So just a reminder that our Summer Language Academy is a California School Board Association Golden Bell Award-winning program because it empowers our students to explore the intersectionality of their identities, as well as their voice, values, beliefs, and now civic engagement. So, as if Summer Language Academy was not enough, we also have, thanks to a partnership with Cal State Fullerton, Dr. Allison Dover, Dr. Ferran Rodriguez-Vaiz, and a generous grant from the Spencer Foundation, we're hosting one class of Project Learn, which stands for Language Equity Action Research with Newcomer Students. Project Learn is specifically designed for our scholars who already attended Summer Language Academy in previous years. These 10 scholars will participate in action research, which will also help them to earn the seal of civic engagement. Here you see the Youth Participatory Action Research, YPAR cycle. Our 10 Learn scholars will attend classes virtually during the same dates as Virtual Summer Language Academy, and these scholars will present their research at a culminating celebration, and if you are available, we hope you will attend on Wednesday, June 23rd from 10 to 11 a.m. This concludes my portion of the presentation. And are there any questions?
Hey, thank you. Yeah. Very good.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Sounds great.
So as you can see, Dr. Bryant, Ms. Maya, Mr. Kimona, they're to be commended for the great work they're doing to plan for our summer, but it also goes beyond the 3 of them and their great leadership to our curriculum specialists and a lot of the members of our Ed staff team and the site leaders who are making this happen for our students this summer. So we're really, really excited for what's to come this summer. What I want to do now is I want to just give you a brief update with graduation. I know we've been keeping you updated, but I think this is also for our community who's watching. You may have seen, as you know, our graduations, thank you, have transitioned to where they're all at Handel Stadium. And I just wanted to share, when we were working with Glover Stadium, which is city-owned, there was a capacity limit, which made it difficult for us to honor the +2 commitment we had talked about. Remember, we had agreed that we want our graduates plus 2 people who the student chooses to be in attendance to support them as they graduate. Well, having the ceremony at Glover would not have allowed that to happen. So as a result of our commitment to have that +2, we needed to move all of our ceremonies to Handel Stadium, which had the capacity to be able to support that. So that's why we needed to make that shift. Before you, and I know for those watching online, you can see the schedule that's been set up where we have our smaller schools, CVA and Hope, on the Friday, May 21st, but then the remaining schools will take place at Handel Stadium. What's important to note, if people are wondering why there's a separation between the different graduations, it's because we were required to create, at a minimum, a 2-hour space between ceremonies, so our maintenance and operation team, who has been doing also a masterful job working with our team of Joe Saldana and Vidal Valdez to build these graduations to make sure they have time to disinfect. It also gives time for the beginning ceremony and the parents to leave the facility, and it'll make time for the new ceremony coming in to be able to park their cars and be a part of the next ceremony. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of those changes and why we needed to do that. Obviously, in a perfect world, we'd be able to do the way we would normally do it, but that's not the circumstances we've been dealt, so we're making lemonade out of the lemons, and this will be a phenomenal experience for our seniors as we move forward. I've been meeting, just so you know, with Mr. Saldana, other districts who are very interested in the work that we're doing with graduation, because we're one of the first in the county to go through this. So a lot of eyes are on us, and a lot of other districts are wanting to know how we're handling this, because this is something all districts are beginning to wrestle with. So I'm excited for what May 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th will look like for our seniors. And again, this is an in-person ceremony at those venues. Questions on graduation? I know we've been updating, but I want to make sure.
I just want to commend the team on how fast, you pivoted and you made these arrangements, because this wasn't something that was expected. And, we always have the Anaheim graduations at Glover.
Right.
And so we thank you for pivoting and making this arrangement to make it work for our families. And unfortunately, it wasn't anything that you had control over, we had control over.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that we emphasize that this is not what we wanted, because, you know, it's tradition to be at Glover, and we know, you know, that's the place where a lot of our alum have graduated. But I commend the team for creating this very, very quickly on the dime. And, you know, you guys are fantastic, so thank you.
Thank you. And the feedback we've gotten from families have been really appreciative, put that of appreciation. They, of course, you know, the +2, whoever that is, whether it's mom, dad, mom, grandma, they're excited to be a part of the ceremony. So the fact that we were able to make that transition and still support family, friends, whoever the two are, to be a part of the day was appreciated. So yeah, thankfully we have not received a lot of resistance. We've been getting more praise.
And are you going to talk about the video and?
Yeah, so just as a reminder, on that day we will have a filming crew there to live stream it. So for any, because obviously only 2 members of each student's family can be able to be there. For those who are not, it'll be live streamed, so they'll be able to watch it just like they are at this board meeting on our YouTube channel. It'll be recorded where they can see it long after the day has happened. We also are embedding for those students who, for a variety of reasons, may not want to be at the graduation. Maybe they have a medical condition, don't feel safe being there. Maybe they have things going on where it's just too difficult. They will be integrated into the ceremony. So we're getting those students who we know that are not planning to show up for graduation for, again, those variety of reasons, and we will have their photo and their name will still be announced and be on the live stream. So as you may recall last year with the virtual graduation, for those students, even though it'll be an in-person ceremony, when it is their turn to be called, their picture and name will be announced, so it'll feel like they are part of the ceremony even though they're not physically there.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah,
That's
so we're really trying to be really inclusive in this process, so that way all students, regardless of their circumstance, get to experience this process.
Right. And can I just make, you know, a statement again? You know, we're sorry, but we can only accommodate 2 people per graduate, and that's because we are limited in the number that we can have in the stadium. And I know that I've already spoken to some in my district who are saying, can't we just get one more? And I had to explain, we just can't do it. And we are live streaming it. So you know, if you are having somebody fly in from back east for this graduation, one of you is going to have to stay home and watch it.
Correct.
And so it's tough, but at least we're having it live. So please remember, there's only 2 tickets, that's it, per student graduating. And it doesn't do any good to call and ask for another one because they're just not there. So at least we are having a live graduation, and we're, like Dr. Freed said, we're leading the field here because we're graduating before many of the other districts. So work with us, and we will all have a good graduation. And one of the questions that I got asked is, well, can we gather afterwards to take pictures and stuff? And I said, not really, because we have to worry about gathering.
Correct.
So we're asking you to leave after the graduation and take your pictures at home, you know, or if you want, go back to the school site at a different time and take a picture there. But there's no time or place, really, for you to try to take pictures when everyone will be trying to leave. So please help us by not loitering afterwards. I know, get your congratulations and hugs and whatever, and then move on to the car and take it home to continue, so that we can get, you know, the cars out so that the next flood of cars can come in. Because even with 2 hours in between, it makes it tough.
It does.
Yeah,
and I appreciate bringing that up. So what we're instructing our graduates is when the graduation ceremony is actually over, those in the stands will remain seated, and we have a whole process for which they're coming in and entering the stadium. But the graduates will leave first, and we're telling the graduates to go to their car.
Okay.
So that way when the parents leave, they meet their graduates at the car, and then they can leave. And like you just said, they can take their photos in other locations. We do have to clear the premise pretty quickly because we have to disinfect and prepare for the next ceremony. So, and as you know from experience, our ceremonies typically are about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes in length, depending on the size of the school.
Right.
So we should have more than enough time, but because of this new dynamic, we have to make sure our graduates get to their car, our families join them at the car, and then they leave. So that's been part of the process, and the sites are communicating that to our graduates and their families along the way. And then there's also going to be a rehearsal for our seniors at their sites, so that's going to be reinforced with them when they do the rehearsal and they pick up their cap and gown and whatnot. So
Okay, good. I was
a lot of
gonna
work
say-
being done.
Right. I hope we make sure that they get the message out to the families, you know, that's what has
And
to
there'll be
done.
reminders in the speech that the principals or the MCs give as well.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Okay, and the last update that I have for you is, as you know tonight, I think in fact after this presentation you have a resolution before you, which really talks about the method in which we're going to open our schools in the fall. And just so you know, in the resolution, it does call for, and I want to stress this so for those watching, they know the intent of what you're voting on. It is for a full 5 days of live in-person instruction in the classrooms. It's going to appear as normal can be. Right, so that is what you are voting on before you tonight. That is going to be the model that we are pursuing right now, as I think you heard from Grant about the teacher input group. Well, we also have an opening of schools task force that we started last March that is still in place, and they are regularly reviewing guidance and still prepping for the opening of schools next fall. Right now, that is the plan, that is the model that we are pursuing. So unless there's a catastrophe and something changes, that is where we are headed, and that's what you're being asked to vote on tonight. The other thing I wanted to share is after you take action tonight, a survey is going to go up to our families tomorrow. And that survey is going to be asking for families to confirm one of really two options, and I'll explain what those are in just a second. The first option, as I just mentioned, is the in-person model. It's asking them to confirm, and we really do believe the vast majority of our families are going to want that in-person model. There's a lot of excitement. Our schools are doing a lot of great work in planning for the reopening, and we call it the CARE opening, as per Victor Rios, to really celebrate their return. You heard about what Mr. Carmona shared in terms of summer programs, and Ms. Maya and Dr. Bryant. There's a lot of work being done to really engage and generate that excitement to come back to school. All of the work that Diana Galletta has mentioned previously in terms of the safety and the protocols are still in place. We monitor that guidance regularly, and then again, as things may change, Mr. Colon, Ms. Galletta, they meet with our admin regularly. I think it's every Friday they meet to go over any changes, if there are any, and what the implications might be for any adjustments we need to make to our procedures and protocols. So we are looking for that in-person return. However, for those families with unique needs, and they may need an independent study option, and right now I want to stress that the state is only pushing ADA, the attendance daily rate that we get, the average daily attendance. There's only two options right now that are on the table that we know of: in-person or independent studies. The hybrid is not an option moving into next year currently as it stands. So to get ADA, students have to either be in person or be in an independent studies program. So for us, if they're not going to be in person and there's a unique need, the option is going to be independent studies. We have a couple of options within that umbrella. One is CVA, Cambridge Virtual Academy. If students want to apply to go to CVA, they can go through that process, and that is one of those options. I have a video that's going to be going, it maybe already went out, but it's going to be going out that explains those options in the survey so parents know exactly what they're going to be selecting when they do that. It also gives them access to the links or the websites so they can do additional homework if they're considering one of those independent study options. The other independent study option under that umbrella is our more traditional Polaris, Catella High School, and Kennedy High School's independent study programs. As you know, CVA is a course-based program, whereas the Polaris, Catella, and Kennedy are a seat-based program. So it's a little bit different in the way that they approach their work. All three are outstanding independent study programs and offer tremendous opportunities for students. All three, the high schools aspect, have A through G courses that are approved, so students can still go to a four-year university if they wanted to be in that program. So those options will be detailed in that video, and also in the survey they get, there will be descriptors of those three programs, so before they make their selection, they know what it is they're confirming. But again, we believe the vast majority are going to come back in person.
Yeah.
Questions?
Limitations on CVA?
Well, right now, I mean, we're going to have to wait and see what the numbers look like. We have more capacity, but again, it's an application based because it's connected to e-learning or what I said course-based learning. So it is a different model than what Polaris, Kennedy, and high school offer. And I want parents to understand that when we say independent studies, Please do not confuse it with distance learning and what we did this year. It is not the same schedule. It is not the same method of learning where they're seeing their teachers synchronously or asynchronously. It's a very different process. You know, in CVA, they see their teachers typically once a week. They typically have discussion boards, chat rooms, help forums, office hours. So it's a very different format connected to our e-learning process. And it's teacher-aligned curriculum that they've generated, they've created that are connected to the standards, obviously, and to also the 5 Cs. Polaris has done similar work, but again, it's through a seat-based approach, not a course-based approach. They get credit along the way, whereas at CVA, you get credit after you've completed the course. So it's a little different process in terms of the independent studies and what might meet the needs of our students.
Is it possible to send the board a survey?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, I would hope you'd send us the survey
Absolutely.
as well.
And I believe you'll get access also to the video, so you can see what
Yes,
is being
that's the
described
most
to the
important
families.
part, yeah.
Absolutely.
The video is currently on our YouTube channel.
Oh, it is?
The message will be sent out tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, very
We didn't
good.
want to send it out until after you take action.
Okay.
Even though we think we don't know.
want to jump the gun,
So,
that's
yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to wait and
Yeah.
not put the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments here?
So real quickly, the survey will go out May 7th through May 21st. So it's a short window, 2 weeks. But the reason why it's going out, and it will go out in multiple languages, the reason why it's a short window is because there are implications based on the data received. Knowing that we believe most families are going to want in-person, and that's going to meet the vast majority of our kids' needs, it's not going to impact staffing in a significant way. But if there are more requests, let's say for the Polaris, Catella, or Kennedy IS, we may have to do some adjustment of staff. So that's why we need to know that information, so then we can work closely with Brad and his team to look at the staffing aspect and if we need to make any adjustments based on the request to be able to meet their needs. So that's why it's a short window, so we can make those adjustments in the master calendar, master schedule aspect.
All right.
Okay. And then the last thing I want to just kind of reiterate is the site planning that's being done right now for the care opening. As you heard eloquently, our student Kenny speak about mental health. That care opening is just that we know that many of our students, even I would argue many of our staff, are going to be out of school shape, right? I mean, we've been at home. Even though we've been working incredibly hard, it is different. I know when I came back to the office 5 days a week, I went home more exhausted than I was when I was working at home, just because I was out of shape. And we're going to see the same thing from our students and from our staff. So this care opening is really taking that to heart and really easing that transition where it's really a celebratory return. You know, we don't want lots of homework in the beginning. We want our students to gradually get back into school shape, get back into the excitement and love of learning, being excited to be on campus. We have to revisit building school culture, the expectations in terms of how we conduct ourselves in a locker room versus how we conduct ourselves in the library versus how we conduct ourselves entering and leaving a classroom. Those are all going to be really critical elements that we need to build in. And as you know, for our junior highs, our 7th and 8th graders have yet to be on that campus. It is going to be a completely new school for our kids because they've never been there.
And
right?
the 8th graders.
Exactly. And then
7th and 8th.
7th and 8th. And then when you think about high schools, the senior class were last on the campus when they were sophomores. The freshman and sophomore class have never been on the campus unless they've been an athlete or a VAPA student who maybe came back in part of athletics or these small pods, small cohorts. So it's a tremendous opportunity to reset and rebuild school culture. For those schools who've been through Capturing Kids' Hearts as an example, I know there's 2 more schools on the agenda tonight. That's a chance to make that just the DNA, and this is how we do things at Ball. This is how we do things at Loera. So there's a lot of excitement in this care opening that we're talking about. And again, we don't train for a marathon running 26 miles on the first day. Well, we got to gradually get our students back into that shape where they can be really promising, rigorous students engaging the way we would normally engage with our students.
Good.
Okay, very good.
So that is the update in terms of the opening of our
Right,
schools.
and you brought up a different point I wasn't aware of, that the state will not give us ADA for hybrid.
Well, right now, there's nothing on the table that allows, right now,
Right,
they're pushing in person or an independent study models.
That's right. So they
based on
push
that
for-
guidance, these are the
Right.
options that we have.
Gotcha.
Because as you may recall, this year and last year, we were held harmless with ADA.
Right, but not.
Next year, we're not. So and there is no true method to account for ADA in a hybrid because we did the second period check-in, but that was under a different model where we had to do remember the learning continuity and attendance plan? So it's a different aspect. So right now, based on the guidance we've been given, could change, but right now, that's not on the table.
Yeah.
It's in-person or independent studies.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Exciting.
Well, I appreciate presenting before you tonight.
All
Thank
right,
you. I know
yes.
we have 2 more presentations, so I'm not going to go too far, but
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Anybody have any questions of Dr. Fried about this before he moves on to the next item? Okay, then having completed that presentation, let us move on to 9.3.
9.2.
9.2, I'm sorry, not, this is 9.2 is the resolution number 2020/21-BOT-14, reopening of schools for the 2021-22 year.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
With some amendments, right?
Pardon? Okay. This is the resolution that will determine what the 2021 year will look like, including following all public health guidelines to ensure the safety of our students, staff, and families. The Anaheim Union High School District intends to return to a live in-classroom instructional model 5 days a week when the 2021-22 year begins in August, along with providing options for those families who prefer alternates as permitted by state law.
So on the resolution, we have some amendments to make.
Yes, I was bring that up here. Would you like to make a motion for some amendment here?
Sure, I'd like to make an amendment to a couple of whereases. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth
Sixth.
whereas, where we could say the feedback from the community favor return of students to a live in-classroom instructional model 5 full days a week when the 2021 school year begins. And then go down to now, therefore be it resolved to state the student trustees, the Board of Trustees of Anaheim Union High School District of the Superintendent and Administration to provide for a live in-classroom instructional model for students 5 full school days a week, beginning on the first day of school. And then be it further resolved that in recognition that these are difficult and uncertain time, insert the word including with the emergence of COVID-19 variants, and that plans may change subject to local, state, federal guidelines. That's all my amendments are. With those amendments, I will...
Second amendment.
Okay, do you have a second? All right. Any comments, questions? We're going back to full in-live school in the fall? Okay, if we all agree. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, roll call vote. Mrs. Randall Trejo.
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. We have full agreement here on how we're doing next year. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. 9.3. Ethnic Studies Task Force. I will defer on this to Dr. Freed to go from there.
The Ed Division is busy tonight. So again, gives me great pleasure to introduce the team that we're going to bring before you tonight. As the board knows, and I know they're going to talk about this in great depth, but we were charged with developing an Ethnic Studies Task Force. Based on feedback we were receiving from the community. We also had that same interest, but as a result of some direction that you had given us, we put a task force together to really look deeply at ethnic studies, define what we believe it to be, and then make some recommendations to you whether or not it should be a graduation requirement and what that might look like. I am really proud to bring up first Carlos Hernandez, our Director of Curriculum Instruction, and just the great work he has done to lead this task force. He'll introduce the team that is with us here tonight, but I'm just really super humbled and proud of the work that he and the team have done. We have a pretty powerful group of stakeholders that represent a variety of different groups on our campuses and our community, and they've done just great mind work. And I know Trustee Randall Trejo and Board President Piercy, you've had opportunities to be at the meetings occasionally, so you've seen firsthand the great mind work that they've been engaged in to get us to this place. So with further ado, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Hernandez, who's going to lead us through this presentation. You have that? I didn't touch it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Freed, and good evening, board. Good evening, Superintendent Matsuda and cabinet members, thank you very much for this opportunity to take you through a journey of our Ethnic Studies Task Force that we began in August when given the directions back in August of 2020. I'm going to introduce the presenters quickly so we can get to the meat and the heart of this presentation. With us is An Ha. She's a senior at Auxford Academy. She will be joined by Cristela Avandano. She's a sophomore at Oxford. With us also is Jacqueline Rolarte, one of our teachers, activities director, U.S. history teacher at South Junior High, and one of our curriculum specialists, a leader, a teacher leader with social studies and many things, civic engagement. Ruben Patino is also here with us. So I'm going to turn it over to An to start us off on why ethnic studies.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. My name is Vangan Hao, or you can call me Anne, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Mr. Hernandez actually asked me to share something personal, so before I begin talking about ethnic studies, I wanted to mention that I am a first-generation American and a child of Vietnamese immigrants. I'd like to share a story that my mother told me not too long ago. Prior to immigrating to the United States, my mother lived in a village in Vietnam. After the Vietnam War, the country was in shambles, and the government was offering compensation for citizens who could find pieces of scrap and other useful materials. With ambition, my mother and her friends traveled all the way to another village, where they stumbled upon a large block of scrap left from the ruins of the war. Out of excitement, she and her friends each gathered around it and carried it all the way back home. What they didn't know is that that piece of scrap they had found was weighing down on a mine of explosives left by troops during the peak years of the war. Not until they got home did they find out that the mine had exploded, killing and destroying half the village. When my mother told me this story, I nearly cried, seeing that she had to carry all that weight on her shoulders for decades. I share this story not because I seek empathy, but because the extent of cultural representation I've had living in the Western world is limited by what is pleasing to the eyes. In the classroom, conversations about cultural awareness only cover Lunar New Year, cultural dances, and eating pho. And while I love and cherish these parts of my culture, there is no mention of the generational trauma and disparities that come with racism, war, and assimilation. According to the 2010 Census Bureau, the Southeast Asian American students had the lowest high school graduation rate of any other group in the United States. I've been a student of AUHSD for 6 years, and I will be graduating this month. However, as I reflect on my educational experiences from kindergarten until high school, it is evident that I did not feel represented in the classroom. During the summer of 2019, I had the privilege of taking an ethnic studies course at Cypress College through the dual enrollment program. I can say with confidence that the principles of ethnic studies goes beyond just an academic checkmark, but offers historical truth to the students who have faced adversity and underrepresentation under the confines of the public education system. Last year, after leading a group of students to advocate to make ethnic studies a graduation requirement, I was asked to join the AUHSD Board of Trustees Task Force. Through this experience, I've learned about the power of student organizing and the importance of educational equity. A majority of students at AUHSD don't have the cultural representation that they deserve. I've spoken to dozens, if not more, students who have experienced microaggressions, blatant racism, and marginalization throughout their academic career. Many were called racial slurs, mocked, and isolated due to their appearance and race. The ethnic studies movement has been around since the civil rights movement, where educational equity has been landmarked through Black liberation leaders desegregating schools, the work of Chicano activists who fought for ethnic studies, and indigenous people fighting for land sovereignty and educational rights. The resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement has brought justice to the forefront, and ethnic studies at AUHSD will pioneer generations of critical consciousness, community engagement, and educational liberation. As a leader of a student group called Diversify Our Narrative, my peers and I have committed ourselves to the ethnic studies movement. with the mission to commit to anti-racism, mobilize student power to reclaim education in AUHSD, and uplift AUHSD's Black, Latino, Asian, and Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, North African, and Indigenous communities. With that being said, I would also like to acknowledge that I hold immense educational and socioeconomic privilege that allows me to be here today. These privileges that others do not have were necessary for me to come here and represent students at AUHSD. And although I am the voice of students at AUHSD here at this meeting today, there are thousands more students with unimaginable struggles who need and deserve empowerment, empathy, and amplification. Thank you. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to present some of the names that you can see on the presentation of these students and admin that worked with us on the Ethnic Studies Task Force. Some of them were from the same organization that I was a part of, and some were student ambassadors. And working with everyone on the task force was really an interesting and learning experience because I was able to work with adults and just people who I never thought would be at the same level of respect and value our opinions in the same space. But yeah. Next slide, please. And then this.
Thank you so much, Anne.
All right. Well, that is why Ann is here representing others. So as you see on this slide who we are, this is who we represent and this is who we are. So right, as you see, we are sons, we are fathers, we are products of the district, we are teachers, we are coaches, we are proud sisters and students. And as we started the task force, that's where we started, with who we are, who we represent, who we are advocating for, those that can and cannot and could not be with us. We're building a community, and that's what we've built, a community that trusts, that has a relationship, that can push each other to say we can do better. We've done great in certain areas, but we need to improve, and so we need to be reflective. We need to assume positive intentions. We need to be real, and we need to be able to listen. So as we built that community, we designed, first and foremost, through the Ethnic Studies Task Force, these guiding principles that empower students. That's what we believe ethnic studies can do, that create awareness, that connects to students, student identities, that addresses history that are not really discussed in history classes, that fosters the 5 C's. That's how we live by here in Anaheim Union. That improves student engagement, right, and civic engagement included, provides a framework to allow for that deconstruction of those systems that Ann referenced and others will talk about. And then adheres to certain structures to make sure that we work through an interdisciplinary, multiple department opportunity for all staff and students and families to be a part of.
So first, we want to highlight the importance ethnic study has on students. When looking at the data, we see that there are many benefits for any student enrolled in an ethnic studies course. Benefits include higher attendance, an increase in their GPA, and more credits are completed throughout their academic career. In addition to that, additional studies that are referenced in the ethnic studies model curriculum also highlighted that students feel empowered in an ethnic studies course. So this slide just highlights what we were able to accomplish throughout this academic year. So the Board of Trustees directed Superintendent Matsuda to create the task force. And when we first met in September, we wanted to make sure that we didn't rush into this process. We wanted to do our due diligence. And our biggest goals, I would say, is to analyze the different models that exist, assess whether or not they work for our district, and most importantly, create a definition for ethnic studies. So in our task force, we looked at different definitions, what the ethnic studies model curriculum suggests. We've also looked at higher education institutions, other local school districts and what they've developed, and through a process of consensus, our definition is as follows. Ethnic studies is the interdisciplinary analysis of race, ethnicity, class, gender, sexuality, and language. Through the sharing of ideas, information, opinions, and emotions, This course provides a framework to allow for the deconstruction of established systems and their effects on people of color and marginalized and disenfranchised groups. Students will be empowered to address injustices that negatively affect them and their community. I do want to quickly add that when we were developing the definition, we wanted to highlight the 5 C's as well as opportunities for civic engagement.
Hi, so thank you for having me here today. Again, my name is Christella, and
Can you speak more into the mic, hon?
Is this okay?
We're not hearing you at all.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Hi again, everybody. My name is Christella. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a member of the teacher collaboration group within the Ethnic Studies Task Force. As a work group, we decided to develop a survey in order to understand teacher interest throughout Auhsd, which we have done so, and we have sent it out to teachers within the school district. So the purpose of the survey was not only to understand teacher interest, but also to understand staffing implications as well as the potential that ethnic studies has. So you can see the information that we've received through that pie chart over there. On the very bottom, the largest wedge, which you can see in green, represents the number of teachers who were interested in the teaching options that were available to them, standalone and integrated course. And the other two, the orange, represents the number of teachers who are interested in standalone course, which is 22, and the number of teachers who are interested in the integrated course, which is 25. However, I'd also like to address the tiny little slight pie pieces. So these are teachers who, although they did write that they were interested in standalone, integrated, or both, they also added additional subjects that they were interested, such as anthropology, and AIVE, cultural relevance, Asian studies, and online course. Right, so this is going to be more of a breakdown about the numbers that I just presented earlier. So here we have 67 high school teachers who expressed interest in implementing ethnic studies into their coursework. So again, you can see the numbers on the right-hand side. We have Cypress High School with 12 teachers who expressed interest, Oxford with 8, Anaheim, Laura, and Savannah High School with 7, Magnolia, Catella, and Western, Magnolia with 6, Catella and Western with 5, Cambridge Virtual Academy with 4, John F. Kennedy with 3, Catella Independent Studies, Gilbert, and Hope School with 1. And finally, we have 24A, which is the junior high school teachers who expressed interest in implementing ethnic studies into their coursework. So again, South Junior High School with 6, Dale with 5, Brookhurst with 4, Orangeview and Sycamore with 2, Walker Junior High School and Lexington with 2 as well, and finally Ball Junior High School. But also finally, I'd also like to address that while there were 91 teachers who were interested, there's still going to be a process in order to determine whether the teacher is the right candidate for teaching ethnic studies with the delicacy and the respect that it deserves.
So taking into consideration the conversations we had in the task force, as well as the teacher interest survey, in March we determined that the best model that would work for our district is a multiple options model. So this includes obviously making it a graduation requirement, but giving students options of what would work for them. They could take it as a standalone course, it can be implemented within a required course, or they have the option of taking it as a dual enrollment course. Even though teachers, a majority that did participate in the survey, preferred a standalone course, based off of students' extracurricular commitments, as well as any other responsibilities they have outside of school, we think that this model works best Also for teachers, depending on what courses they are going to work and develop the curriculum, we just thought it would be best to have a variety of options.
All right, and these next couple examples just gives you, and one of the concerns is, well, how will students take that? Will there be a conflict, right? So here's a student that is an A through G student completing all recommended subjects. What's highlighted is where this ethnic studies elective course that, again, it currently is an elective course, would be able to fit. And that, again, is if they need to take that elective course. In the future, as we are thinking about how things will be embedded into content areas across the spectrum. But in this case, this is a student needed to take an elective course. This is a student that is A through G, also an AVID student, also a VAPA pathway student. So as you can see, there is a spot there where a standalone elective could be placed if that is the choosing of the student. And then this one is very complicated, yet opportunity still exists. A through G student, CTE pathway, VAPA pathway, an athlete, right? We threw everything in there, and yet there is an opportunity for the student to take the standalone elective course, ethnic studies.
Good evening. Later on this evening, the board will be looking at this ethnic studies resolution and taking action. We wanted to highlight the 3 items on the slide because we had received feedback in the task force that these are 3 areas that were of particular concern to teachers, but we believe through the work of the task force this year that we have currently met some of those concerns and will be meeting them going on into the future. So what you see there are our current implementation plans. First, of course, is that ethnic studies, the task force recommends, be a requirement for graduation beginning for the class of 2026. That means our current 7th graders. At the same time, as we move forward, there will be a great deal of professional learning that will have to occur for teachers and administrators in the district. Additionally, curriculum will need to be developed or revised. As Ms. Rodarte shared with you, the multiple option model. Currently, we have an ethnic studies course in our course catalog. We need to, again, that's about 7 years old. At the same time, in March, the California Department of Education approved an ethnic studies model curriculum. So again, we'll need to look at the new model curriculum and see how we can mesh that with our current standalone course. At the same time, the integrated model, again, what courses will be integrated with ethnic studies have yet to be determined. But of course, for that to happen, we'll have to have teachers who, again, want to be trained, want to be part of that curriculum development. We will also be reaching out, as Ms. Rodarte touched on as well, to our neighboring districts who are going through the same process we are going through or who have already started, such as Santa Ana Unified, which had made ethnic studies a requirement a year ago. Higher education institutions as well, we'll reach out to them. Again, I'm reminded of a lot of our partners we already currently have. And then at the same time, local county boards of education to help us as we move forward.
Okay.
All right, well, that concludes our presentation. I again want to thank our Ethnic Task Force members here presenting on behalf of the rest of the Ethnic Studies Task Force members, and I want to thank you all for very much for the support and the guidance and the direction that we have moving forward. Lots of work to do, but we are open for questions.
Well, yeah, very good. Let's give them a round of applause, especially for our students and being involved. Being a part of this task force, I wasn't ever there each day, but I know there was a lot of work put into this, a lot of homework put into it as well. It was not just the meetings, but they were asked to go home from the meeting and do some stuff and think of things. And, it was really well done. And I remained in the background. I was there, but I didn't want to put my 2 cents worth into, don't want to sway anybody any different way. So sometimes, silence is the better solution. But I listened, and I really thought there was a lot of good work going on. And I'm really happy that they have come up with this suggestion to make it a requirement that is met with variety of ways, because there are so many graduation requirements already. And so adding more, the state keeps telling us we have to do this and we have to do that, but we want to do this, but we want to make it so that every student will do it, but at their pace or at their way. So I'm really happy that you put this forward like that. And my only question would be it'll be sort of like civic engagement. It'll be something that'll have to be checked off for their graduation. So, but it will be recorded. So, and I know that there's a lot of work to be done. So your idea of having it a requirement for this year's 7th graders is good, because it gives us 4 years to get everything shipshape and the curriculum all, gone over and whatever, so that if we do get a standalone, we'll have teachers ready to teach it, and students who may want to take that standalone, then we'll maybe have to do a 0 period or whatever, but it gives us time to get totally organized. So, pardon?
Questions?
Yes, questions. Yeah, I was just making my comments, and then I will ask for questions. I don't have any question. I was just complimenting them, because I was involved. Okay, Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah. I'm all for ethnic studies. I think it's very important, because I think we've been lacking, or the educational system has been lacking, not just us. And obviously, I think the easiest way to fulfill the possible requirement, if we vote for it, would be a standalone. Okay? But I also see that taking away from the students' ability to take electives, and we keep chipping away at the elective ability, where soon down the road, as Ms. Piercy was just saying, there may not be any electives available because of all the requirements that are put up on our students' backs. So at what grade level will this ethnic study begin or be available? Does it start in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade? At what level? That's my first question.
Yeah, currently the plan is for the class of 2026, which are 7th graders, to begin to open up, expand. We currently have ethnic studies happening right now, but for those 7th graders, once they become 9th graders, they'll have a chance to take it in 9th, or if it fits better in the 10th, or in the summer, or in 11th, or in 12th. But it's a high school level.
Okay, so the answer is it's high school level.
Correct.
Okay, and then you just maybe answered another question was, is it going to be available during the summer months so that it doesn't impact their normal education throughout the year?
It could, yes, it could. We currently have other options that they can take in the summers to make room for it to be taken in the fall or in the spring.
Okay.
Correct. So we have world history, we have health as options to take over the summer currently, and we certainly can expand those.
That's if it's a standalone.
Correct.
Now, if it's embedded in other courses, how would that work? And how would it work? How do you monitor it? How do you make sure that the student gets those courses to fulfill the requirement?
Correct. So you can take a course like an English literature course that doesn't necessarily exist or doesn't exist.
Okay.
That could count as an English 3 class, an English for the juniors. You can embed the ethnic studies content along with the literature standards and count that as the English 3 course, not in addition to the current English 3 course. So it would have a new course number. So the English 3 is a regular English 3 course number. It would have a new course number that gives the English 3 credit, and it gives the ethnic studies requirement compliance credit. So Puente is a great example, a course that, it's a Puente English course that looking at the curriculum to see what is included already, maybe adding a few layers, could become a requirement that meets the English and the ethnic studies requirement.
So the requirement, is it, the course, is it a one semester, is it 1 year, or what are they called?
Right now, we're not giving it a credit maximum of 10, or we're simply saying it meets the requirement. It could be 5 credits. Currently, the elective credit that exists is a 5-credit course that would give the ethnic studies credit. And if went the English class that it's all year, it could also as well. So it's not necessarily tied to number of credits. It's that they took the experience, in the Anaheim Union, whether it's elective or embedded content.
Okay.
Right.
So what you're saying is that this could be embedded in any one of our courses. Band, yeah, VAPA course. I mean, just seems like we could.
There's like, I think MAP too, right? Today, today we missed our presentation today. Yeah.
Today, that's right.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the rub, though, to ensure that, let's say if it's embedded in dance, okay, I can see it.
Mike, I cannot hear you.
Well, in many of our VAPA classes, I think that it could be embedded because we have a lot of VAPA teachers already teaching a lot of multicultural performances. But you add a reflective piece, a writing and reading into that, then I think it would amp it up a little bit. We could qualify that, right? But possibly even, okay, here's my other question though. Can it be done like over 2 years? Let's say if it's a dance teacher that wants to embed this, can it be done over like 2 years? Do you have dance 1, 2?
That's one of the concerns, let's say VAPA teachers, that we don't want to lose sight of that it's a VAPA course. As we embed additional pieces, it'll take some time, perhaps time away from the content. So if it can be done in 2 years, then it makes sense. Then yeah, absolutely.
And keep in mind, this is the work of the task force. Once we get your approval, then the task force will start to work on the process to integrate into current courses or to develop these standalone courses. So that's the work, right? The curriculum development. And it's not just, oh, let's just do this one unit and call it ethnic studies. No, it is integrating this into the course so they're getting it throughout the semester or throughout the year, depending on the length of the course. So that's the work ahead with the task force.
So I wanted to, first of all, thank you. Trustee O'Neill, you actually asked many of my questions that I had here. One of my questions is related to that. In terms of building the content, right? That's up to, obviously we're not standardizing it, but that's up to the teacher?
It'll be filtered through the Ethnic Studies Task Force, the subcommittee of teacher leads that know the content, that have been teaching it, that have experience in ethnic studies, that know what it needs in order to be able to meet the ethnic studies requirement.
So,
we can't, right, we're not leaving it up to one teacher while we value them. We need to filter through that process.
So which leads me to ask a couple of questions that, well, before I do that, let me just go ahead and say what a powerful story on. Just wanted to thank you for sharing that story, number one. Number two, if you are the caliber of students that we're going to produce at AUHSD, our future is bright. So thank you for taking that lead. I know we met with you. I think I met at the backyard on Zoom talking to you and the group. So thank you for taking the lead and being involved and seeing through all the way through from last year to this year, being part of the process and advocacy. And actually now you feel probably satisfied that you came up with something tangible that you could see before you graduate, right? So thank you very much for that. My question that I was going to ask is, in terms of, I think you're probably familiar with the controversy that occurred at the state level when they were actually trying to prepare the whole ethnic studies bill. I want to make sure that we address Arab American studies and Arab American issues within the ethnic studies context, right? Because I think that's one of the things that came out of it, is that they didn't want to touch it at the state level, but they wanted to give the option for the district, which is actually doing it, to address it. And I think given the fact that we have a number of Middle Eastern students in our district, and we need to address that. We need to make sure that we are thoughtful in the process of addressing that when we are developing curriculum. So that's something that I wanted to mention, and hopefully you guys will highlight.
Yeah, and Al, to that, or Trustee Jabbar, to that point, one of the things the task force has wrestled with is one of the elements when we were defining ethnic studies is that when we're looking to develop the content and the curriculum, that that part of it is localized. So we're bringing in the stories, the narratives, the artifacts, right, that are a part of that course that represent the different students that we serve. So it's not just one group in particular. It's going to be a variety of different ethnic and racial groups that you will see embedded in these courses. So it's localized, and it, just as Anna talked about, when I'm in that course, I can see myself represented in this content, right? That's what we want. So it's a empowering aspect for our students. So that's something our task force will wrestle with when we begin developing the curriculum. And we'll likely have to get teachers, our teacher leaders, to be a part of writing that curriculum, so we have a curriculum that we can say this is what we're teaching when we do ELA 1 or ELA 2. So that way there is continuity across the district. And then as we talked about with the professional development or professional learning, we can bring the teachers together who are going to be teaching those courses, whether they're standalone or integrated, so we have a shared experience in the way that we deliver that implementation. And that's also why the timeline is important. So it gives us time to do that work, because it's not done overnight, right? It takes time to develop.
I'm glad that you're bringing that timeline aspect of it, because I think
we want to do it right.
Somebody who's looking from outside in, they might probably say, like, you guys took a year to discuss this, and then now you're saying that the graduation requirement is not until 2026. But there is a reason for it, right? We are deliberately making sure that we develop something which is tangible, which is good, meaningful, thoughtful, so that students will have the experience. By the time they graduation, it's just not a requirement, but they come out of it stating that they learned something, and their stories have been addressed, right? And their issues have been addressed. So, thank you.
And remember too, we already have the course as a part of our work. So it's not like 2026 is when you're going to start to see ethnic study courses. As soon as we are ready, we can start bringing these courses to the mix. So if we have the curriculum that's already been developed and we have teachers that have gone through the training and are willing to start teaching it, we can start doing that sooner rather than later. But in terms of it being a requirement where all seniors get that, or by the time they graduate, all seniors have gotten that access, that's why we need that time. But we can start rolling this out as we develop the process and start training our teachers.
I wanted to ask about this one slide here. It says from Chapman University. If you could explain to me why this is here, what the heck it means.
Yeah,
Ethnic studies as praxis. Stories from classrooms and communities, dehumanizing math classrooms through ethnic studies pedagogy. And the fists down at the bottom. Now explain that to me.
Yeah, so this is Chapman University's Ethnic Studies Summit. Well, two of our teachers from Anaheim Union are actually presenting. And in fact, it just took place today, this afternoon. The flyer represented simply that we have teachers already working on embedding ethnic studies content into their current classroom. So two math teachers, one from Oxford, one from Anaheim, shared their experiences of how they reflected on their own work experience to bring in those ethnic studies, the content. The flyer simply is them sharing that at the Ethnic Studies Task Force, Ethnic Studies Summit at Chapman.
Carlos, earlier you had mentioned dual credit. How would that work?
So dual enrollment credit is college credit that already is taking place. So students are taking dual enrollment classes that give them both high school credit and college credit for a course like the ethnic studies. In fact, I know I was waiting for that question to be asked.
Is a product of
She took it course with Cypress College.
Okay.
Share your experience? Yeah.
So I took Chicano Studies 150 at Cypress College in the summer, and it's also offered during the regular fall semester and spring semester of high school. And when you take it for during the school year, it'll be a semester long or shorter. So for me, it was 5 weeks because it was a summer course, but it'll all depend on what class you take and what your school offers. But since we're implementing it in different ways, a lot of campuses at Oxford already have dual enrollment classes on campus in their classrooms. And so that'll always be an option if we're going to implement it that way. But yeah, dual enrollment is always an option, and it also gives you credit if you're going to go to a community college or I believe a Cal State and some UCs, and you'll get transfer credit for after you graduate.
Okay. You just mentioned the word Chicano studies, right?
Yes.
But that's a very narrow study when you talk about ethnic studies?
Yeah, so Cypress and Fullerton College offers various forms of ethnic studies. The one that I took was Chicano studies, but it also offered American ethnic studies, which my friend took in the same period of time. And that one is more general, and it's more inclusive of like every ethnic group in the U.S.
Okay. So to fill our graduation requirement, the Chicano study would not be appropriate. It would not fulfill our requirement because it's not studying a broad brush of ethnicity. Is that a correct statement?
It does, if today was the ethnic studies graduation requirement and the way it's currently stated, it would meet the ethnic studies requirement for graduation. It's one of the, one of the options for ethnic studies for our students.
But that's such a narrow window of life.
I took the class, and actually taking it, when you take like a single ethnic studies course, like no matter how narrow it is, like I took Chicano studies, but if I were to take African American studies or Arab studies, Asian studies, etc., it talks about intersections and like the impact of different movements. So for Chicano studies, I was able to learn about the civil rights movement and the Black liberation movement, the involvement of Arab Americans, and also the Asian American civil rights movement at the time, because it's all like historically intertwined. So that's why taking one course will give you sort of access to another lens and a lot of other perspectives.
Well said, Ann. That's
Well,
great.
I think it's something we need to keep in mind when we develop our criteria of what does the district really want to have our students learn, and why are we doing this?
But I think the key is to understand that even Chicano studies, like Ann said, it actually incorporates everything. So that's why it is a requirement. I mean, it could be a requirement. So it's I'm trying to grapple with, I'm fasting today, so I can't come up with a faster example here, but maybe you could help. But at the end of the day, it does fulfill the requirement of ethnic studies because it encompasses every aspect of it. And it's actually identifying and going through the process of it, right? I guess that's what you say, go through the process of it.
I'd like to add to that too. It's a great question, Mr. O'Neill, because like when you take Asian American studies, they generally start with the immigrant experiences of other groups. Italian, like Irish, other groups that have come to America and have been discriminated against, even though they're white, right? Because then you learn that it's kind of this sort of a pattern, right? Because you come here to work, and then oftentimes you become the other, sort of a minority, right? And we've seen it with the Irish and the Italian and Catholics and other groups. And then you go deeper, it gives you that context. And then you end up focusing on the ways of Asian American immigration, starting with the Chinese railroads and the mining and all of that. So I think it generally, and it's a great question, and I think that's something we'll look at, because we do not want our kids to come out of our district without an understanding that we're all interconnected. Right? I know exactly where we're headed with this, because we don't want to tap into sort of a negative experience and a lot of anger, because that's really where it takes training of our teachers, of the college teachers, to really have students understand the history, but also appreciate their own identity as, part of the American salad bowl.
I have a question. Just for instance, I'm trying to clarify in my mind how much depth you are going to go into, because if you're going to talk about Asia, you're talking about many different cultures within the Asian world community. You go to Africa, and you go from Egypt down to South Africa. Are you planning to envelop all of those cultures? I mean, this is just
another great question, but this is about the American experience. Mr. Matsuda, use the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry. But another great question, the question has to do with, do we, like in Asia, if we're studying Asian American history, it's really the American experience of people who are Asian here. It's not about studying history of Japan or history of China. It's here. And I think that's the big difference. And that's one of the challenges, because so many, and of course you guys know my history too. My parents, my mom was a citizen here, yet she was put into internment camps because of the bigotry, right? And thinking that, and even now, I have people come, especially during this anti-Asian hate that we're going through, attempt to scapegoat me as being non-American, right? And that's what, oh yes, and had to deal with that. So I know it's a very sensitive matter, but this is an opportunity to heal. This is what I think all of us understand. I'm really proud of the board because you have been supporting this more inclusive education that we're trying to build with ethnic studies. And I think it's really a pivotal juncture in the history of this district to have this and to listen to the students and their parents and families' shared histories. And Mr. Jabbar, your point about ensuring that there is, local context, because we do have a lot of refugees from the Middle East here, and they're starting their journeys as future, Americans, trying to find their way in this very complex society that we live in. So, that's my 2 cents here. So I'm really proud to hear the questions, the inquiry here, and I assure you, though, that this task force hears your concerns, and we have a few years to work this out, and there will be other updates to the board in terms of where we're at. But I think with this young ladies and all of the students who have spent so much of their energy, right, ensuring, because she's graduating, this is about future Anaheim Union High School District students. So we thank you and the other students who have spent so much time and energy on this emotional issue. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for clearing that up. I think it's really important to really talk about ethnic studies and what it is not, just as much as what it is, because I think people have this narrow view of what they think it is. And so I just want to commend you, Ann and Christella, for coming here tonight. I know you have other things going on in your world, but I think that you can hear how important this is and how important it was to take the time to and do you have something to say? You can go ahead and address. You look like you need to say something, but it's really important, like I said, to hear from you, because you took a Chicano studies. You're clearly not Chicana, but that experience that you had empowered you to want this and want more of our students to get the exposure, more so than a summer course. And I remember you saying that very loudly and very clear, that you would like all of our students to feel the emotions and to understand. And what it did for you, it brought you closer to your classmates. It brought you closer to the world. It didn't divide. And I think that's what a lot of folks think that the studies are, and it clearly to divide us, and it's really not.
Right. And I wanted to add on to what Superintendent Matsuda said about like the various cultures being all monolithic in terms of the American experience, because I know that with the rise in anti-Asian sentiment, anti-Blackness in the U.S., and like hate crimes that we're seeing emerge, when you look at me and you look at Christella, you're not going to see, like a person who sees us on the street is going to see the same race or the same image of like an Asian person, right? And that can vary from South Asian people who are Indian, Nepalese, etc. But The point of ethnic studies is to understand race, and race revolves a lot around phenotype and how you're perceived in the world. And so your experiences are kind of include both your culture and how you're viewed in the world. And that's why ethnic studies sort of gives a universal learning experience, I guess, to students of all cultural backgrounds, whether or not they have like a distinct cultural background. I know for some students who I've taken ethnic studies with, they didn't really have like a distinct culture or like anything at home, but what they took away from that class and what the conversations we had in class were just so valuable, and it's sort of a learning experience and an exchange between both the teacher, the professor, and all of the students. So yeah.
So this is why you take ethnic studies. You are the prime example of it.
Right.
So.
Bravo. Thank you, Ann.
Yes. Excellent.
You are amazing.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all very much for a great presentation. And thank you for months of work, too, because you've been involved for several months.
All right.
Okay.
9.4.
That was 9.3, and now we're moving on to 9.4. This is resolution number 2020/21-E-22 ethnic studies.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, I've got a lot of motions. That's great. Does that show enthusiasm or what?
Yep.
That's great. Okay. Any questions or comments?
I just want to make a couple of quick comments. First of all, officially, I want to thank the students who advocated for ethnic studies in AUHSD. It was great to see former students actually coming in and taking the time to advocate for ethnic studies for their future, for their brothers and sisters. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all the task force members. I know you put a lot of time to come up with the best way to implement this in a thoughtful manner rather than just implementing for the sake of implementing. Want to remind that AUHSD is a very diverse district, racially, ethnically, and culturally. We have students who speak 49 or more different languages, and 90% identify as students of color. AUHSD is in the forefront of our democracy schools, and introducing ethnic studies as a grad requirement only empowers our students to address injustice that negatively impacts them and their communities. It really speaks to our mission and vision as a district. It's preparing our students to be great citizens out there. According to experts, it also is going to close the achievement gap, reduce truancy, reduce dropout rates, and increase graduation rates. And they're more likely to be more engaged as well. So mostly I'm interested that it's empowering our students and actually talking about student identity. That's very important for our district, especially with what we have gone through in Anaheim. This is great that we are doing this. So with that enthusiasm, I support this. So.
Okay, anyone else have a comment?
Ditto.
Very good. I invite anyone to read the resolution. All our resolutions are online. And please take the time, if you're interested, and read it so that you are fully aware of what all our aims are, because the task force spent a lot of time putting it together and putting a lot of information into this resolution, so please do so. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Mrs. Trejo.
Because this gives us an opportunity to practice our mantra, which is to know our name of our students and to know their stories. My vote is aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
I vote aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. We have a unanimous acceptance of all their hard work. Thank you very much. And we will be kept up with what you continue. This is great. You guys have done a great job so far. Okay, 9.5, our math task force.
Excuse me, sorry, Madam Chair. Can we get a copy of this resolution to our two students that came tonight, please? Thank you. Sorry.
All right. While we are transitioning, Mr. Hernandez is bringing in our math task force presenters.
Is it going to take a couple of minutes? I would like to.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, we can certainly wait if it's okay.
This has been a year, too.
Yeah. Where did Paulina go? It's getting warm in here, isn't it?
We're going to bring them in. We're going to take just like a minute break because.
Connie.
And if you want, you can have them sit in the back chair.
Just to let everybody know, we're still live, so.
Oh.
Try these?
What's that? We're on. We're still on, but we're waiting.
I mean, have you tried the brownies?
Yes, already. I didn't do that.
Oh. Is it because I broke fast in a meeting and it's so good? I know. I'm like sitting there going like, what am I doing? Man.
Like when you say,
Talked about it. Man.
All right. We dismissing Ms. Smith?
Well, we took one. We're falling apart here. Where'd Kathy go?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
Now we lost Al. Oh.
I'm thinking of school.
We have our viewers watching. I could sing a song, but I don't want to. I'm afraid if I start entertaining, they may leave. All right. So we're just missing Mrs. Smith.
Are we waiting for?
Yeah.
We could start. If you're okay, I will, but I...
Pardon?
Are you okay? Do you want us to start, or do you want us to wait?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay.
She'll be back shortly.
Okay. Well, similar to the great work we did with our Ethnic Studies Task Force you just saw, we have equally done just as great work with our Math Task Force. As the board knows, not too long ago, we were given the charge to put a Math Task Force together because of some of the challenges that were brought forward regarding the current math textbook we were using at both our junior and senior high schools. So again, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Carlos Fernandez, our Director of Curriculum Instruction, and the great work he did leading our Math Task Force. And I have to also acknowledge all of the great work our math teachers across the district have done. Those who served and will continue to serve on our Math Task Force have done just a really outstanding job leading and really collecting the voice of our teachers across the district. So they're going to share a little bit about the journey they went through, and then obviously leading up to the textbooks that our teachers came up with as a recommendation to you in terms of what they'd like to use for the next several years while we wait for the frameworks to be revised. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hernandez, who will then introduce our team to present to you tonight.
All right, thank you, Dr. Freed, and again, board, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here again, Superintendent Cabinet. And we are talking about our Math Task Force. I want to introduce our presenters as they come up. You'll see from them, but quickly, I have two math teachers that represent our Math Task Force, one being Sue Carlson, teacher, junior high teacher at Sycamore Junior High, and we have Jairo Aguayo, a math teacher at Loera High School. I have a third teacher, a math teacher that also was teaching a long time, taught me math at Anaheim High School. She currently serves as a curriculum specialist for math, teacher lead, Julie Spikerman. And she's also going to be sharing spending some time with us today. All right, so we, back in July, our board gave us direction to direct us to create and establish a Math Task Force. The Math Task Force included, one of the requirements was to ensure that we had well representation from every school, and that is across junior highs and high schools, and we did just that. As you can see from our Math Task Force members, we have our junior high school teachers listed there. That represents all junior highs. We have the high school teachers, and we had administrators also, many of them with math experience, which was wonderful, also to help us ensure that our students with disabilities, our English learners, were represented as we initiated and established a Math Task Force initiatives, the objectives of this group. As you can see from the next slide, these were the recommendations given to us. To establish a Math Task Force, these were specific objectives. And one of them was to review and adjust the execution, the implementation plan of math to ensure professional learning and monitoring progress was taking place in the teaching and learning of math. The second was to address concerns about the teaching and learning of math via the adopted textbook. And this again was July of 2020, excuse me, not 2021. It hasn't taken place yet, 2020, so back in the summer. The third objective was to build capacity around our math framework, mathematical practices across both from the teacher side, the administrator side, and of course that impact students. And our fourth was to review resources, many wonderful resources that our teachers have curated, that they've put together, they've prepared, and to share that wealth of knowledge and learning to others. And I'm going to turn it over to Julie, who's going to continue the work.
Good evening. In August 2020, we had our first Math Task Force meeting where we reviewed our objectives and were introduced to the Anaheim Union Math Implementation Plan, as you see in the bottom right. And the teachers selected their work group preference. In September, consensus was built around the priorities for the work ahead. We reviewed the work group selections and the general instructional materials adoption timeline with key California Department of Ed dates. By October, the Math Task Force determined that all Anaheim Union High School math teachers should be part of the decision of keeping the current instructional materials or beginning a new math materials adoption process for 2021-22. This was the first pivot from the original plan. In November, we used Jamboards to share observations and inferences from the October math teacher survey. All teachers in the district, math teachers, were given the opportunity for option 1 to wait until next school year to begin reviewing curriculum, or option 2, immediately begin to review curriculum. This Jamboard exercise gave voice to the math task force members. They discussed the broader trends in the observations and inferences from the data in a large group setting. And they made together the recommendation that Anaheim Union High School District should begin the process to adopt new math materials immediately. So 12 junior high and 7 high school math material publishers were contacted in December. These publishers were the only ones with instructional materials that were set to meet expectation from Ed reports. 9 junior high and 3 high school publishers responded to our request and were scheduled to present on one of 3 dates: January 25th, February 26th, or March 8th. All math task force members signed up for 3 publisher presentations for either junior high or high school materials, depending on the level at which they work.
Hello, I'm Jairo, and I want to begin by giving my thanks to the administration for their guidance and time throughout this process. And I also thank my fellow teacher colleagues who dedicated much of their efforts and their time to complete this comprehensive review of instructional materials. As you can see, it was a very long list. And I also want to share I personally felt like a valuable member of the team because the administration team really facilitated a textbook adoption process that was a bottom-up and inclusive approach. So thank you. And what you see here is in December 2020 and January 2021, the math task force developed and came to consensus to 63 criteria within the 5 categories: mathematic content alignment with standards, program organization, assessment, access and equity, and instructional plan and support. We evaluated the instructional materials prior to the publisher's presentations, and after the presentations, we independently completed a criteria-based evaluation form. We're culminating it in our individual recommendations. And then we met with our colleagues that evaluated the same publishers so that we can discuss our findings and came to consensus about moving our program forward or not. As you can see in this list, three of them were not recommended.
Good evening. So after all of our group recommendations were made, we met as small 2 teams. So the junior high school teams met and the high school teams met separately on March 18th to make our final recommendation. But we had invested so much time that one meeting wasn't enough for either of those groups. So we both asked for more time. The junior high group actually asked for time all the way through spring break, and the high school group asked for 1 more day. That was really just a testament of the effort that we had put in, and we wanted to make the right decision. And so before spring break, the junior high school group came down to those 3 that you see highlighted there, and the high school group asked for more time for the 2 that are on the screen. Next, yeah, that's okay. But good news, we were able to come to consensus after that extra time, which was awesome. And the junior high school team decided and chose on the HMH into math material, and the high school team decided on McGraw-Hill Reveal Math Integrated. We are super excited about both of these choices, both at the junior high and the high school level. And I know for me personally that this was an amazing experience for me to have a voice in looking at curriculum and discussing it with my colleagues and taking it back to my site. And I think the buy-in from teachers is going to be huge because we were part of the process and we had a voice and we got to see a lot of different materials, which was so great to compare. And they were all amazing, you know. And but I'm just excited about, I'm excited about the new curriculum, looking forward to it. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be on this journey and to have a voice in the curriculum. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, team. And so we are at the point we're talking now about next steps. And again, our math task force met every month and a lot of time, as you heard. Lots of next steps happening. What I'm excited about, as you see the recommendation to you today to instructional materials, we're already planned for and scheduled for training, for overview training for our teachers. Over 77 junior high teachers and 140 high school math teachers. That includes gen ed, special ed specialists, co-teachers, SDC teachers are all signed up, ready to be trained. Right? So they're bought in, they're ready to go, they're excited to get trained up before they leave so they can look at and understand the material. And we're also going to be specifically targeting specific math practices. I'll talk a little bit of exciting news about our teacher leads in both junior high and high schools, about them helping us with embedding the 5 C's across trainings alongside the publishers to ensure that our mathematical practices and our skills are embedded through the lens of Anaheim Union. And of course, it's critical that our math framework, knowing that it is what it is right now, it's going to be adopted. We're looking to the future to ensure that we're ready for that when that day comes. You will see 2 board items, 2 math instructional material items. One for the junior high, which is as described, HMH into math, and junior high, which is McGraw-Hill. And that you will find as you read through the agreements, I've done a few times and I've highlighted a few times, to understand really what does it include. And I want to, again, a huge shout out to Julie for spending 7 days a week understanding what is included in the agreements, having Brad Manami look through it, ensure that what our teachers need, what they're advocating for, what our students need, what our families need is included in those instructional materials. I'll talk about that actually now. So you see to the right, what does this agreement include? It includes student materials. It includes professional learning. It includes teacher support materials and digital tools. Now to go deeper, specifically for the junior high, knowing that our junior high, it is going to include textbooks, right, for students, and it will include also Spanish language textbooks. I know that that's important for our friends in the DLA program, our students and our families. It will include online and digital tools available to them, knowing that we have computers and we've done a lot of work there, that will be available to us if we need that support. Looking at the high school, we will have, for McGraw-Hill, we will have student online supports and that's a platform that will be available translated into Spanish. And again, I'm saying it intentionally because I know our friends and our students and our families and our community, our teachers obviously need those those pieces. Our teacher online platform also will be available to them. Our teachers, again, online, and then assessments that will be and can be translated into Spanish to assist the teachers in that workload. Teacher materials will be available for them and translated, and then the digital tool, Alex, that's connected to the McGraw-Hill, Alex will also be available for translation into Spanish. So a lot of work into the agreement, and then if there's gaps as we move forward in the training, our teacher leads and our teachers will ensure that we can mind those gaps and address those. So a lot of professional learning happening starting next week. Starting next week with our training, we're ready to go, queued up to ensure that we start with professional learning for as we prepare for next year. We have, I know I wrote that down, a whole bunch of them, trainings, over 9 days in May. We have instructional materials that our professional learning teams will be helping and assisting. And I mentioned that we have our lead teachers, teachers are leaders. Specifically, there's some teachers that are math learning lab teachers at the junior high that are helping, that are coaching, that are helping deliver professional learning, that are opening their classrooms as labs to help assist our junior highs. And so they are going to continue. What is new, what is exciting about this coming year, we will have high school math leads also being able to help with coaching and to open up their classrooms as well. We know that it's critical to protect some time for professional learning. If you ask the math task force members, they would say that came up multiple times last week, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, we need time. And to have teachers say we need more time to collaborate and to build our capacity is awesome to hear, right? So we want to figure out a way to honor that and to protect that time. And as we mentioned, the focus of the 5 C's and mathematical practices will continue throughout the professional learning. So as we close here, we are going to continue with those math task force objectives. They may need to be tweaked. We do have some that we will continue that we didn't necessarily hit this year. One of them was to address the adopted textbook. We did that. Complete. We want to continue with the others as needed along the journey for next year and beyond. And so, we may, as we talked about, we may need to address it or adjust those objectives. We may need to enhance them. We may need to update them. But we will certainly have our math teachers represented across the school and across the community. And with that, we want to thank you for your time, and we are open for any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Mrs. Trejo.
Well, first of all, kudos to the entire task force. Bravo. I just want to highlight the fact that, we were going to adopt a textbook, and a lot of the math teachers said no, that they didn't want it, they didn't like it, and we listened to them, and we said, okay, what do you want? And we kind of put it in their hands, and this is just incredible work, but we have to highlight the fact that our teachers felt safe enough to do that. They felt safe that they could come to the board, they could come to cabinet and say, we want something different. And in that spirit, thank you for saying that. You felt that you were heard. And, bravo. I don't think anyone else is doing this. And it's not, I say this because I want to brag. I wish people would hear. This is the way to do this. This is the way to go. Put it in the hands of the teachers that are teaching the material. This is the way to adopt textbooks. You'll love it. You'll be excited about it. You'll excite the kids about it. I wanted to ask the two teachers. I didn't really hear I heard some of the highlights, but what did you personally like about these math programs?
Personally, like about the instructional materials?
Yes.
Oh, the availability for our students to have access to the online platform with the able to translate to their language, because I think a lot of our students need that. And for me, for math, it's an awesome tool because I do know how to speak Spanish, but it's very difficult to translate all the time. So by letting them do that, and I still accept their work in Spanish, right? Because I can read it, but also it helps students that I don't know how to speak, they don't know how to speak Spanish or English, or they prefer another language, so they can use that language as well. Because I think that I can understand their work, and also when they do things with the online platform, I can myself also translate it back to English. If they turn it in a different language, which is really cool. Also, the textbook is really well laid out and clearly states the standards that the students will be addressing and the objectives. And I think that really help our students, especially at home, when our parents really want to help out. And that's one thing that came up in the past, that the parents really like helping out. And this textbook really supports that. So I really appreciate this textbook, being able to allow parents and students to work together in this new text.
That's absolutely very thoughtful to think about the parents at home that are struggling, trying to help their children, and especially the translation part. That's amazing.
How many different languages, does anybody know?
I can tell you that when I first came on the board, there were 72.
No. How many
They're in the
languages
book.
will they translate for?
book,
I know
yeah.
how many we have.
They've reevaluated it. How does that all, because there's only 2 languages you're teaching in, right?
Me?
No.
Carlos?
No,
The platform, how many languages will it convert?
We simply asked about Spanish, so that's a great question that we can ask. Okay, so it's Google Translate.
Oh, so,
yeah.
wow.
Okay.
Oh.
So we have unlimited languages almost then between, okay.
Yeah, the publishers demonstrated that they could use Google Translate to translate all their content online.
That's
Oh,
great.
great, good.
Can I ask a question okay, one of the textbooks is a usable textbook, right? It's like a workbook. Is yours like that in high school? Was it the junior high one that?
In the high school, we have that option. I think if I remember, it'd be a printable option from their online resources. But it's not an actual book that needs to be purchased from what I remember. It's not a consumable. No. The high
Okay.
school, it's not a consumable.
High school is not a consumable. Is junior high? Yes, okay. Well, I read the junior high, I thought was a consumable. Well, I wasn't sure about high school. Right. Thank you.
So are these 2 for junior high and high school, are these textbooks ready to go for August? We will have them
We will
in
have
the
them,
classrooms?
delivered. There's a delivery meeting. In fact, was that today or
Yeah.
tomorrow, Julie? Yes, we're as soon as it is signed, they're shipping out. Well, soon after, for sure. I mean, that's why we work so extremely hard. That's why the teachers work extremely hard, because we wanted to get the teacher editions here, to have it in front of the teachers before the training. And of course, like I mentioned, Julie and Brand, Manami and Jaron helping out, getting everything ready so that our students have them for sure ready to go. There's a lot of work to be done to stamp them, to get them ready, to get them into the IMRC the
Teachers
system.
will have theirs before they leave, and that's part of the training, so that way they have this summer, if they choose, to interact with the text and start planning.
Yeah, I was going to ask
That's the key piece.
I was going to ask about the training. Is there any formal training, or is it sort of?
No, yeah, that's the training that starts next week.
It's from the
publisher.
From the publisher.
That's correct.
In the afternoons to do a lot of those trainings,
Yeah.
so it's during their workday, because they already work a full day as it is, but it's during the workday to get that training and that access and experience using that book.
Okay, now, do you want to tell us about the junior high book? I want to hear about the junior high book.
So I actually enjoyed that we were able to pick 2 different publishers for junior high and high school, because we definitely know that their needs are different. And the junior high curriculum, some of the highlights is that we really focused on how it was laid out. Visually, it needed to be attainable for our junior high kids, right? Not too many pop-ups, they get distracted, things like that. I also really liked all of the options to differentiate my instruction from what I saw. I can reach my kids that are struggling, and I can enrich my kids that need that challenge. The third thing that I really liked about the junior high curriculum is the digital piece that comes with that. It's a program called WAGGLE. Sorry, it starts with a W, And currently with our Carnegie curriculum, we have Mathia. I don't know if you heard that go by. So it's not similar, but it's an accompanying program that will support our students. And I really feel like it's going to do a good job in helping us enrich and intervene for kids that need both of those, along with extra practice for the middle of that. So those were the highlights for me. But I mean, there were just so many things that were great about it. And those were the 3 that stood out to me.
Very good. You're excited about using it and teaching with it?
Definitely
Yes,
excited.
that's good.
So, and I haven't really gotten into it, but already excited about it. So.
Good.
It's
That's
good.
great. That is really good. Is Kathy?
I want to ask, I'm understanding tonight that you're able to teach in English and Spanish. What about Asian languages? When I hear so many other languages, I remember asking Dr. Billings that question years ago.
Well, we do have DLA, Anaheim High School that represents Spanish, Sycamore, and then non-specific to math, at Magnolia we have Vietnamese, the Vietnamese dual language, right? And that they don't include the math content.
That was going to be my question.
You're right. They don't. They've decided not to take the math strand. You know, if it were at some point in the future where we have an additional language being taught through math, then that's something that we would ask our publishers to ensure that, you know, that would be one of the criterias to assess as we're going through the math adoption.
I'm lost.
So the Spanish is for our dual language academies, and right now that's the only language that our DLA accompanies with our math books.
Right. So
the children, the youth that do not speak English but are in these programs do not get math in their language.
I think Kathy's probably talking about before, so we'll need to talk about really clearly that it's for the DLA program and not.
Right. So for our students that are in the Dual Language Academy program at Sycamore, they are taking math. They're taking all classes. Math in particular is taught in Spanish. So other students take that same math class taught in English. They're learning to be proficient in the language of Spanish. So they're using math to learn not only the math content, but the Spanish content and becoming proficient with that language at Sycamore, and it continues into Anaheim. And when I refer to Vietnamese, there's a dual language academy being taught at Magnolia with Vietnamese, and I'm not familiar with what content specific. They're learning the content and learning the language of Vietnamese.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, wait a minute. Mr. O'Neill, I think I'd seen his.
What levels math are we talking about with this math book adoption?
Junior high, all the way to seventh grade to 11th grade.
Okay, but when you get into high school, you have calculus, you have trigonometry. Where is this? What level math are we talking about?
You want to respond, or Jairo? Great.
Yeah, so it's an integrated program that we have for 9th and 10th and 11th grade.
Okay.
And then after that, if you're in the honors program, you go to a new textbook, which would be like pre-calculus or calculus or statistics. So for this new textbook, it would specifically cover for the integrated program that we have in the high school level. So it'll be the honors courses for like 9th and 10th graders, and also the other courses that are not honors for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade as well.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jabari?
All right, so I know, Carlos, you presented this in your presentation, but I want to kind of reiterate. In terms of representation at your math task force, you had wide-ranging representation from throughout the district.
Absolutely.
You had, and you said absolutely, that was your answer, right?
That is yes,
Okay.
absolutely, yes.
And I know the answers, but I'm asking so that I could make sure that the audience knows. You had representation from DLA.
We had Juan Alvarez from Sycamore Junior High, DLA, correct.
What about high school DLA at Anaheim?
We had Jessica Alvarado, the department chair for math. We had Ryan Kiley, another teacher from Anaheim High School. Not from DLA, but Jessica represents her math department, so I would say she's representing her DLA program as well.
So she's representing the DLA program, and they have the opportunity, DLA teachers would have the opportunity to give input on the curriculum and then the selection of it?
Yes,
ask
and
questions
from the beginning, yes.
from their site?
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
My other question is, so the question, junior high gives resources for DLA program in terms of for students and teachers and, parents want to use it, right?
Yes.
High school level, math, same thing for DLA, they're getting resources?
They're getting resources, they're getting it online, they're getting the digital support through Alex, the digital tool.
And all of this is basically addressed in our contract?
It is.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about coming back in another 3 months or 4 months and saying like, hey, it's not being addressed, and we got to go back and amend the contract, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so having said that, now I want to go back to the issue of why didn't we have DLA math books in the past?
Well, to be clear, we used Carnegie, and Carnegie included Spanish language textbooks.
And they did have it?
That's correct.
Okay, so I wanted to address those questions for you just so that I could put it. Now I'd like to bring Dr. Jaron Freed. This is not related to math, but I think you know the question that I'm going to ask.
I do.
What about science? Why don't we have science textbooks again?
So science is transitioning to the next generation science standards at NGSS, and right now we have an integrated approach just like we've heard in math, which means the biology, chemistry, earth science, there's an integration in physics, and a lot of the textbooks that were developed previously are not integrated. They're biology or they're chemistry. So we do still have some of those older textbooks that teachers can use as a resource, but in terms of getting a new textbook and spending the money on these textbooks, there's not a lot out there right now that has that integrated, that is fully aligned to NGSS. And what a lot of parents, myself included, if I wasn't connected to education, I was used to using textbooks in classrooms, but now there's this concept called open resources. And with NGSS, or the Next Generation Science Standards, it is really more about the skill-based learning, the inquiry, and the discovery of learning. So a book can sometimes box you in where it's very rigid, whereas the open resources give teachers a lot more autonomy to really expand their learning. So that's really how we've been shifting as a district with the NGSS while we're waiting for these textbook materials to really be developed and aligned. And in speaking with Jessica Yett, our curriculum specialist, who is connected with other curriculum specialists in other districts, they're also kind of in a holding pattern as well because they're seeing the same thing, that if they want to be integrated, which is what NGSS recommends, the books that we've had are not integrated. They're more siloed based on that content.
It's not only AUHSD, but all districts around are the same.
I can't speak for all districts, but many of the districts that we've reached out that are nearby are in the same holding pattern that we are.
Surrounding districts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And with that, I want to thank the Math Task Force. I know that, this all came about a year ago, but you guys really put your time into it. I've got a lot of communication back from task force members who thanked the board for doing this. I think, this is what AUHSE does, right? So having said that, Carlos, I want you to take extra step in communicating to our DLA program and making sure that the misconceptions are, clarified and right information is given, because there is a little bit of rumor out there that this does not address certain things. So I want to make sure that that goes out to all DLA parents, at least the DLA booster group. Thank you.
Okay, and I'd like to say one thing. I want to thank the teachers and thank all of your teachers that were involved. That's phenomenal. And I'd love to see it, because you're teaching it, you should be involved in deciding what you're using. And I think that's great that you gave all of your time to do this and are still giving. So thank you and all the teachers that were involved. Mike would like to say something.
Yes, thank you. And again, thank you, Sue and Jairo, for that work. This is really, the purchasing of our textbooks is also creating what we all know is an unfunded mandate. We have, I'm talking about the technology and the access to the internet at home, right? Because you talked about the digital support, right? This is a really important piece, because we know that this is going, and we're going to be challenged in the coming years to ensure the digital support both at home and in the classroom. So it's just sort of a point of information for the board and for the public to realize, and we call it an unfunded mandate because the state of California does not fund the digital support on an ongoing basis. So that's something I think we're all aware of, and it's going to be a challenge going forward. Thank you.
Okay,
I'd
Kathy.
just like to ask one thing. I am elated for this group that they had the input and the ability to find something that they will be able to enjoy teaching. Math is a very difficult subject to teach, and to have something that you're comfortable with and enjoy It'll make it better for everyone. And I'm grateful for you and your work.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Thank you all for this presentation, and we will be considering the textbooks later, but it's a shoe-in. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, we're to item 10. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, public comments, open session items. Okay, as indicated on our agenda, written public comments were shared with the trustees before today's meeting, and they are being posted for public review on the agenda page of the district's website. Once again, we had quite a number of written public comments, so we are going to just ask you to read them on our website. Thank you. I think, what did we have, in excess of 50 comments? Yes. But thank you all for writing your comments. We all will, we've read them, and we hear you. Okay, item 11 is items of business. Is Elizabeth going to join us again? We're going to be taking up our school-sponsored student organizations. There she is, very good. Okay, item school-sponsored student organizations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Are we going to take them all as one?
Take them all 1 through 12, and it's great to see so many are coming through.
Right, and I love this adult transition. I just think this is so great. We're going to have these adult transition clubs on our campus, and the teachers are going to get the benefit of this because they're going to be pushing a cart around selling coffee and stuff. I thought, fantastic. So, I just think it's a great program. So, okay, this is a roll call vote. Mrs. Trejo?
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. O'Shea? Aye. All right, and I vote aye. It's unanimous, 6 ayes. Okay, moving on to resolutions again. We have 11.2. This is the resolution number 2020/21-B-18, School Lunch Hero Day.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Okay, I've got to say this. Our School Lunch Hero Day is a national celebration in honor of our hard-working individuals who prepare the healthy meals for our students every single day. And between preparing meals for our students at AUHSD, they've also done it for Anaheim Elementary students. And they have navigated student food allergies, and they've offered service with a smile. And our school nutrition professionals are true heroes. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, during the pandemic, these were the folks who are actually out there really getting the food out to our community. And I was fortunate enough to be at the Sycamore site and Anaheim site to serve food with them. But man, the time and effort and the energy that they put into it, I just want to say that they're truly heroes, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right. And not every day was the neat day to be out there and, under those, pop-up awnings.
And they didn't really care because
No,
I think at the
they
end
were
of
there.
the day, they didn't care about the fact that they might get exposed. They just really called.
They just did it.
They
And
did
they were
their job,
bundled
so.
up sometimes and wearing gloves and hats, yeah, because
in
it
the
wasn't
rain
always
and
pleasant,
and
right?
the-
We
and the
really
sun.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, Mrs. Trejo?
I vote aye for this resolution. They're all heroes.
Yes, Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Very good. Okay, 11.3, this is resolution number 2020/21-F09. This is the approval of notice of exemption for the Magnolia High School locker room building modernization project.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The scope of the work here consists of modernizing and reconfiguring the shower locker room building and modernizing the wrestling room and installing of surveillance cameras and other security enhancements. And the district evaluated this project and has determined it is categorically and statutorily exempt from CEQA. So we're seeing improvements at good old Magnolia. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, 11.4, Resolution 2020/21-E-23, enhancing supports and resources for our LGBTQ plus students.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Our current consideration here is for students and advisors from a variety of school site Gay Straight Alliance clubs took time to share the importance of GSA visibility and district support to them and all students during public comments at Board of Trustees meetings throughout the 2019-20 year. Adoption of this resolution will provide the opportunity to support our LGBTQ plus students by celebrating the achievements and contributions of the LGBTQ community through recognition of Pride Month, LGBT History Month, National Coming Out Day, and Transgender Day of Remembrance. And once again, comments, questions? Seeing none? Roll call vote. Mrs. Trejo.
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
And Mrs.
Aye.
Smith, and I vote aye. 11.5, Resolution Number 2020/21-HR-06, Classified School Employee Week.
So moved.
This is
Second.
all right. I have a motion and a second for the Employee Week starting May 16th to 22nd for our classified school employees. Do I have any questions or comments? All right, we're going to recognize that classified school employees play very crucial roles in education, from transporting and feeding students to teaching them vital skills and ensuring that schools are operating smoothly. Classified employees are very integral to the district and public education. And as a previous teacher, I will tell you they are extremely important. The school will not run well without them. And I can't express that enough, that they are the backbone. The teachers depend upon them. So it's right that we should really recognize them May 16th to the 22nd. Okay, any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, next, 11.6, rejection of liability claim.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All right, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.7, revised board policy 5408, in parentheses 3555, nutrition program compliance, second reading.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.8, agreement, Teo Rossini, a professional corporation.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, 11.9, under Educational Services, new board policy 7607, esports, first reading. This is an informational item where we're going to recognize the district's support for esports as a way to engage students in school, develop career readiness and social skills, as well as provide practice of the 5 C's. In addition, the policy will support using funding, if available, for equipment and a coordinator to support esports programs, and the development of a committee of representative stakeholders to support the program. This policy also will establish support for higher education, for professional development to support esports, as well as collaboration with institutions of higher learning, businesses, and community esports agency. And finally, the policy will provide guidelines for game selection, a student code of conduct, and parent approval for the use of communication websites associated with esports. Okay, this is just an information item. So moving on to 1110. This is adoption, expanded learning opportunity grant plan.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. This expanded learning opportunity grant plan must be completed by school districts, and an LEA receiving ELO grant funds is required to implement a learning recovery program that at a minimum provides supplemental instruction, support for social as well as emotional well-being, and to the maximum extent possible under the guidelines of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Okay. Questions, comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Javar. Aye. Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1111, Educational Consulting Agreement, TGR Foundation.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, this is the Tiger Woods Foundation. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mrs. Trejo.
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Javar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.12, Educational Consulting Agreement, Real Inspiration Inc.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, another consulting agreement. Any questions? Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Javar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1113, Educational Consulting Agreement with Gallagher and Associates.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? I've got to comment on this because after 30 years of teaching English language arts at Magnolia High School, Kelly Gallagher retired in June 2020. And while teaching, Mr. Gallagher opened his classroom for teachers to observe best practices with the opportunity to discuss how to develop, implement, and refine instruction. His work as an author and consultant with educators around the world have earned him the reputation of one of the leading experts in literacy education, and he's coming back to work with us. Now that he's retired, he's a consultant, and I think that's phenomenal. So we are now going to have a consultation agreement with Kelly Gallagher, who worked for us for 30 years. So, any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Mrs. Trejo.
So we only work with the best, right?
Oh, you betcha.
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Javar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.14, Educational Consulting Agreement, Character Strong.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, Character Strong, just a little comment here, is a character, education, and social emotional learning curriculum, as well as a professional development company that creates positive habits through ideas-based practice. There are 3 components of their curriculum: gym, leadership, and advisory. This sounds interesting. Any comments? Okay. Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Javar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
1115, Service Agreement, Strong Workforce Program, K-12 Pathway Improvement Grant, Rancho Santiago Community College District.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Javar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Another educational consulting agreement, 11.16, educational with Devon Favela.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, our agreement with Devon Favela is to create marketing materials to promote biotechnology career pathway at Anaheim High School. Another career pathway. Okay, any questions, comments? Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. And 11.17 is a grant agreement, Orange County Community Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is a digital career exploration hub for students, families in partnership with Road Trip Nation. Okay. Mrs. Trejo.
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.18, agreement, Book Systems, Inc.
We pulled that, right?
This was a
Pardon?
roll call.
Roll call.
No, this is a roll call vote.
Okay.
All right, I had to challenge that, but because we're still somewhat restricted from full public attendance, every item has to be roll call vote. So, okay, this is an electronic system for management of textbook inventory.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Trejo?
I vote aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.19, agreement, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Junior High School Math Instructional Materials.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second, and we know all about it
Are we
now.
going to have a
So-
presentation?
Pardon? Can we have? Comments? No? Okay. I thought we had a really good presentation, and we got a good idea. We got them to talk about the books, so.
Excellent.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second,
Yep.
and we will vote. Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.20, agreement, McGraw-Hill High School Math Instructional
So
Materials.
moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.21, agreement, Multilingual California Project Grant. We
So
get more
moved.
money.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.22, a memorandum of understanding, New York Life Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay. This is a childhood and bereavement support, grief-sensitive schools initiative to equip school personnel to understand and support students dealing with loss and grief. Okay, Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.23, Memorandum of Understanding, Stop School Violence Program, Orange County Department of Education.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The purpose of this project is to build a school's capacity to work with students presenting with violent thoughts or behaviors toward others. And we have funds for Stop School Violence Program. Okay, Mrs. Trejo?
I have reservations about
You have
this.
reservations?
So I'm not really
Questions?
understanding the name of this, and you don't stop something that's not happening. And I just don't like the name of this. I feel like we're doing things that are positive, and I'm not quite sure what this is all about. So I'm just going to say no.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, 11.24, Memorandum of Understanding, Waymakers.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, okay. Waymakers is a delivery of a evidence-based curriculum to a minimum of 1,500 youths. The curriculum is designed to prevent youth substance use and increase media literacy and safety using evidence-informed practices.
So moved.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 11.25, Memorandum of Understanding, Connected Nation, Inc.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? No, this just This is a consideration that the district has been selected to receive free wireless internet access, hotspot devices, and content filtering from AT&T to serve 500 students for 1 calendar year. The students will receive this free of charge. They will have 50 gigabytes of monthly high-speed wireless data. I think this is phenomenal. Okay, the following schools have been awarded devices: Anaheim High School, Catella High School, Loera High School, Magnolia, and Savannah High School. Services will be provided July 1st through June 20th of 2021 through June 30th of 2022. How could we not say no? How could we not say yes? What am I saying? Oh, okay.
You know what you mean.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Sure. Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay. 1126. This is a public hearing. Disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with APGA. Open the public hearing.
There were no comments for the public hearing.
No comments. Okay, close the public hearing. 1127, adoption of the 2021 collective bargaining agreement with APGA.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Trejo.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar.
Aye.
Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1128, certificated administrators, classified management, and classified confidential salary schedules.
So moved.
Second?
All right. This is an increase of 3.2% as we have given the teachers and all. So this is including everybody. Okay, any questions or comments? Mrs. Trejo?
Glad to do it. Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Absolutely aye.
All right, Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
And Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1129, the declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All right, this is to allow teachers to teach in a variety of areas. Okay, any questions or comments? Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1130, revised board policy 6602, catastrophic leave program, second reading.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1131, Board of Trustees monthly compensation.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All right, this is basically giving the board 3.26. Do I have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. 1132, employment agreements and compensation for assistant superintendents, chief academic officer, and district council.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Same salary increases the rest of the district. Okay. Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. 1133, employment agreement with superintendent, compensation.
So moved.
Second?
All right, motion and a second. Any questions or comments? This is extending the employment agreement with our superintendent. And in addition, increasing the tax sheltered annuity in line with the improved and pending increases for employee groups in the district. Seeing no questions or comments, Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, we are at the consent calendar. Anyone wish to pull any items?
Yes, 1211ZZ and 1212.
1211C.
ZZ.
ZZ. Okay,
Move for the balance?
Second.
I have a motion and for the balance. Okay, Mrs. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Aye.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, 1211ZZ.
And 1212.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Trejo?
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill?
Abstain.
Mr. Jabbar?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Oh, let me see here. Let me get to item 13, Superintendent and Staff Report. No report, no report, no report. Okay. Board of Trustees report. Mrs. Trejo, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'll make this really quick. I attended my monthly GASELPA meeting, my monthly no crop meeting. I was able to get on the very last moments of the LCAP and heard it all coming to the culmination. It was great, and it's just really amazing how even virtual they were able to get together and have all those discussions and challenges. And so I'm just really proud of the work that you all do, and you're just amazing. It's amazing to get everybody together. I don't know how you do it every year, but just amazing. I attended the Orange County delegate meeting. I attended, just out of curiosity, the EL roadmap from Kern County, and as I expected, Anaheim Union is far and above kind of what everyone else is doing, and I hate to say that because you want all children in the state of California to be where we are. I attended the students' VSA meeting. It was their last meeting on Saturday, and it's really sad to think about. Now this is all going to be the last of the last for the year. Yesterday, attended the Savannah capstone. Still managing to get those kids in the interviews. It's just amazing. Attended the ROP Student of the Year interviews, and all of our students were amazing. It was very, very challenging to choose the three that we did. And I just want to thank all of the students that are advocating and sending the board letters. We're reading them, we're getting them, and keep advocating. I love it. I love the fact that they're just sending us these items and issues that they want to talk about. Careful what you wish for, and we're getting it because we've educated our students. We've given them the voice, and I love it. And that is my report. Oh, I saw the virtual Color and Light, which was just absolutely amazing that they were able to culminate all of that art together. And that's my report. For real this time.
You sure?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill, it's your turn.
I logged into the Color and Light and saw the fantastic artwork. Too bad we couldn't have seen it in person, but look forward to next year. I attended a football game. It was interesting to see the lack of attendance in the stands, but also glad to see attendance was in the stands. Minor, but still it was good to see. And the players obviously were having a great time on the field, even though one loses and one wins. Still they were having a good time. I attended a principals meeting online. Enjoyed listening in and seeing what's going on, hearing what's going on. I want to thank the presenters tonight. It was very informative, very professional, and I'm so pleased to be a part of the district and seeing what we are doing for the students, for our kids, and it's going to make a huge difference in their lives in the future. So thank you so much.
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Jabbar?
Yeah, well, I want to echo Mr. O'Neill's sentiment. Thank you very much. It was very good presentations all around. So thank you to staff, and I know you guys have been propped up by other staff who are putting the legwork, so please thank them as well. I attended a OCOR a presentation, which Anne Marie did too. She also attended. It was a community group, which actually Anaheim Intersection, which put together a group of folks, and they've been working on recommendations for Anaheim Union High School District and Anaheim Elementary. They gave some really good recommendations, which we were fortunate, Anne Marie and I were to sit there and say that we've implemented most of the recommendations that they've given us. So there were a couple of things that I think I've had conversations with Mike, which I will further continue with those discussions with him. I attended a ROP meeting. Again, lastly, I want to mention about our support, our district's support to vaccinate our community is greatly appreciated, not only in the community, but all around, even including healthcare agency and my boss, Doug Chafee. I know we had an 800 vaccine event, which was one of the biggest clinics outside of the main pods, the main super pods. So it was great to have that clinic at Magnolia High School. We managed to do 758. Our target was 800. So far, we've done 36 clinics in 4th District with 14,545 shots in arm, including first and second dose. And many of those clinics were at Savannah, Magnolia, and Loera High Schools. So I'm very proud to be a part of that effort, so thank you.
Al, I heard today that the super pods are closing down as of today?
June 6th.
Oh, is it June 6th?
Yes. As of June 6th, they will close down, but then they're going to expand, they're going to start expanding the mobile pods.
Yeah, the community, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for all the work you've done with this journey, and it's been wonderful, and I'm personally very grateful. Well, I have a few things to share that are a little bit different. I did join in on the insurance committee. And we have a chap that graduated in the first graduating class from Auxford. His name is Alexei Robachow. And he lives up in the Silicon Valley, San Francisco area. And he started a company called Better Up. Has anybody heard about it?
What is it?
It's on all the national news. And it is a proactive custom coaching tech company, and he hired Prince Harry to be employed in this journey. And Alexei is just one of these extraordinary people, along with John Wynn. Many of us know John and his accomplishments, and those two started YLA, Anaheim leader, and now it's YLA, I guess. So I wanted to share about that, and his picture was on the news. And kind of a sad thing, I was at Postal Express the other day, and the gentleman had taken a piece of paper about the size of this, and he wrote up here, stamp, return address, and address. And I said, why do you have that there? And he said, well, they're not teaching in schools anymore how to address a letter. And I said, what ages do you have that up there for? And he said 20s, 30s, 40s. And I said, how old are you? And he said 25, and he said they stopped teaching it when I was in the 3rd grade. So here we are trying to do what we're trying to do to help young people grow into successful human beings. And it was just such a shock for me that I just had to share that with you. And then my husband I have a deep concern for all the plastics that are going out into the landfills and the oceans and the harm. And my husband came up with an idea about 2 or 3 years ago. They ought to consider grinding plastic up and using it with macadam to build roads. And by golly, by gee, 2 days ago, he got some information on the internet that there is a company in Scotland. Did you see that? And the company's name is Macadam, and that's the name of the man that started the company. And to me, that was just joy, because we've got a problem with all this stuff that's used one time. So that was heartening. And then I wanted to share something. I received the quarterly news from the National Farm Worker Ministry, News and Reviews. And this week is National Farm Worker Address Week. And every time I go to the grocery store and I walk into the produce area with all the vegetables and the fruits, I say to the fellows working there, somebody bent over to pick this up and put this here for us. And I held these people so close to my heart. And my niece is a nurse in the Monterey Peninsula, in the community hospital in Monterey, and she has been telling me through last year that they have been inundated with farm workers coming in with COVID. And you think of these people that produce for this country under terrible conditions. And I just want to share that because I think we've all been through so much, just a level of appreciation of what so many people do, like math teachers, people that are developing programs and interviewing and figuring out how much money we get and how much we spend. I just want to thank you all. I feel so grateful to be with a great group of people, very caring people. And so anyway, that's my report.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so my past month, I have attended the opening of school task force meetings in the morning. I've just about made most of them this month so far. It was really good. It's very interesting. I'm enjoying those meetings. And then I've attended the principals meetings for the most part. I missed part of the last one, but that's a learning experience too. And it just keeps me kind of like in the know a little bit better. I really like that. I went to the insurance committee meeting, and we did our normal business at the insurance committee, and things are moving along fine, and we are making some changes and looking into some possible other changes. I went to the ethnic studies, I joined in on that committee, and then the student discipline committee. It was really fun because we worked on a dress code to present to the principals, and it was kind of just a basic outline. Trying to make it a standard across the district, even with our uniforms and what have you, and trying to get a little bit more, less strict, I guess, or less, too much discussion about it, and so one of the things that I had to laugh about is we had to come up with like shorts, no shorter than, and we were, one of the, suggestions was, the tip of your fingers, when your hand down there. I said, wait a minute. I said, come on, if it had to be that, you're not taking into consideration differences in height, and so we came up with mid-thigh instead of into the fingers. I said, 'cause for somebody like me, that means it's pretty long, this type of thing, or short or whatever. So that was interesting, though, but we, and the principals had an opportunity to, make suggestions and corrections, or the committee did, and then, well, they'll go to the principals next week? Yeah.
It's already been sent to the junior high.
Oh, it was already sent? Okay. Okay, good. And then that was then the Sister City Commission meeting. I attended that. I was a little late getting in there, but evidently there had been some issues in the Sister City Commission meeting to the point where one of the members was kind of out of line, and he was summarily removed from the commission for making inappropriate comments, put it to say. So also now the Sister City Commission, which has not been changed since the new council grew to 6 areas. So they are going to be looking at it. Now they haven't changed it because there was we were working on exchange programs with Mito Japan, and a lot of work goes into that, and so they just kind of left it alone. But they're going to be looking into making changes, so that's coming down the pike. But according to the charter, we are still, as a district, we have 2 people on that commission because they work so much with us, with our students. Not always just our students, but because we are a school district. And then, okay, I attended the Lexington's ACE interviews. Okay, they had this program where they have Achieving Creative Excellence, where it's like a capstone program for the junior high. And they had 68 kids this year that participated. And these kids pick their own project, and they do it, and they come up with their own ideas, and they, work on it, and then they present it, and they have a mentor teacher that will help them, guide them or answer questions. But it was amazing what some of these junior high school kids did. It was just so interesting. I wish I could have seen more than just 2 or 3, but they didn't. It was on Zoom, but really great idea that we've got junior high school kids willing to do projects like this on their own and come up with creative ideas. Then I spent a number of days or hours watching webinars. I know Orange County OCB, Orange County School Board, OCBA, there you go. They put out some webinars, one on broadband and the web, and what different communities are doing. And there was a thing a few years ago where Anaheim was talking about having Wi-Fi citywide, and what happened? It kind of fizzled out. But there are communities and school districts that have partnered with their community, and they have established citywide broadband. I can't think of the name of this one community, but they had one on the west side of a tower and one on the east side, and it covered the entire area into a small town, but they got it done. So it's something we're looking forward to, maybe trying to work with the city to start, helping out and getting broadband, so that our students will have it. And I did look in at the Color and Light and looked at some of the artwork. And then I did OC Forum. I looked on the law enforcement and today's law, and there was a couple other. I've signed up for a number of them, so it's interesting. Some of them are very interesting to find out what some of these other cities are doing, and some of the things that you get different ideas. It's good old networking. Okay, advanced planning. Future meeting dates. Our next board meeting will be held on Thursday, June 17th at 6 p.m. Okay, and suggested agenda items? Okay, then do I have so moved for adjournment, and I have a second?